Why are so many Democrats voting for Charlie Winburn? Democrat Malcolm Timmons.
I'm voting for Charlie Winburn because he's the man that does what he says he's going to do, and he gets things done for our community.
Democrat Nettie Matthews.
Of course I'm voting for my brother Charlie Winburn because he cares about the black community.
Democrat Paul Booth.
I'm voting for my longtime friend Charlie Winburn. He will put people over party.
Democrat Zakiya Allen.
I'm voting for Charlie Winburn because he has a positive track record in our community.
Democrat Charles Wiley.
I am voting for Charlie Winburn because he would be accountable to us.
Democrat Klein Carricker.
I'm voting for Charlie Winburn because he helps to train hundreds of African Americans through his leadership masterclass.
Democrat Jafanya Wynn.
I'm voting for Charlie Winburn because he cares about women with children, providing child care and a school for K through 8th graders.
Democrat T. Renee.
I want to see the first African-American county treasurer elected after 230 years.
Vote Charlie Winburn for Hamilton County Treasurer.
Paid for by friends of Charlie Winburn.
State Senator Cecil Thomas asking you to vote for Charmaine McGuffey for Sheriff of Hamilton County. As a former police officer, I know Charmaine is the only qualified candidate to be sheriff. She stands with our community and will lead with accountability. Her opponent used excessive force in the killing of an unarmed black man and led the highly controversial Vortex unit. He is the last person we need to lead our sheriff's office. Trust the judgment of someone who knows. Vote Charmaine McGuffey for sheriff, a vote for justice.
This is Charmaine McGuffey asking for your vote. Paid for by people for McGuffey for sheriff.
The Nathan Ivey Show is supported by listeners. Go to www.patreon.com/Nathan Ivey Show and help Nathan keep the show independent. You're listening to The Nathan Ivey Show. One man, one microphone, one mission. Now let's get back to the flow.
All right, let's get back into the show, everybody. Thank you for being here. Nathan Ivy, 513-873-7134. If you should decide to use your thoughts this morning, I would love to be the conduit to the masses. Many things to discuss this morning. Let me put the, let me get on the cam here so you can, there we go. Good morning to you. Welcome back. It's beautiful, a little bit of chilly here. We got the heat off, and but we'll get through it. 513-873-7134. Again, remember, open your mind before you open your mouth. Other than that, it's all good. We can chop it up. Doesn't really matter. We can agree to disagree. Please take a second to like and share today's show. Again, please take a second to like and share today's show. Your shares mean everything. When you share the show, quite frankly, more people see it. More people see it. 513-873-7134. Now, of course, the big news from overnight, and this does affect black folks and black families, is the fact that Amy Coney Barrett, along partisan lines, there was only one Republican, white female Republican that represents Maine as a senator, who did not vote for her. And the largely white male Republican Party, and at least the representation in the U.S. Senate, said to hell with hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is a tool for these cats. And they elected, or should I say they appointed, Amy Coney Barrett 8 days before the election. This has never happened before. It has never happened in the history of the country. Like, we are living in amazing times politically from one way of looking at it. These are absolutely amazing times, right? So last year, you go back to when 2016, when Obama was in office, the Republican majority successfully stopped him from nominating a Supreme Court justice because it was like 9 months before the election. They said, the American people need to have a right. They need to have a choice, right? And they blocked them. They also blocked over 100 federal judges that needed to be appointed, and left it open so that hopefully a Republican would win back in 2016. And see, I got to call people out, man. All the smart, dumb cats, all the people that get caught up with the wrong thing. I mean, this is all on your shoulders on some levels. I go back to 2016, people was running around talking about ish that really didn't matter as it related to Hillary Clinton, instead of looking forward to what the future could be. To me, 2016 was about two things. It was about Supreme Court and the internet. All of my listeners that was listening at that time know that to be true. Those are my two biggest issues. The internet, in terms of your internet freedoms, and the Supreme Court. And it was clear there was a huge difference between the two candidates. But, the Republican Party, or the Russians, or Trump, in his wisdom, was able to successfully convince people that there's really no difference between the two. There was a huge difference. Like, I don't want to hear no belly aching about what the Republicans have done in Mitch McConnell, because they did all of this previous to the 2016 election. People still went out and voted, or people stayed home and didn't vote, or, people in the black community was running around trying to figure out what they're going to do, which is still a problem, unfortunately. Right? So, I mean, we're not surprised by this. This is the inevitable outcome of a couple things. One, it's the inevitable outcome of some people with the Federalist Society. So now Amy Coney Barrett is the third and most recent member of the Federalist Society to now be appointed to the Supreme Court. They don't give a damn about black people. We'll put it just like that. They don't give a fuck about you. Straight up. Again, all this information is readily available. I remember reading about this. It's just so interesting that I've lived long enough to see all of this. I remember being in college, being at the University of Cincinnati, and reading about the future plans of the Federalist Society and these other Republican so-called think tanks and these groups. And now they've actually executed their plan. And now there's a 6-3 conservative supermajority on the Supreme Court. But it begs the question. What does that mean for black families? What does a conservative supermajority on the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, mean for black families? I'll give you a few thoughts of what that may mean. And I'll give you at least one thought on what I hope it will mean for us. So what we saw last night was just a culmination of 25, 30 years of planning by the Federal Society, by various people, largely, focused on the Supreme Court and other judges throughout the last 20 years. So this is long-term planning that we just saw brought to fruition. And the question has to be for progressives, for black voters, and where's our long-term strategy? Because, what's done is done at this point. No sense in bellyaching about it. And I know that some people can say that they didn't really like Ginsburg, but, some of the arguments that I've heard was a very narrow opinion. Like, we're going to judge these judges, these Supreme Court justices on 1 or 2 cases. I think that would be intellectually dishonest. And then secondly, say what you want about Ginsburg. She's not been replaced by someone who it appears is ideologically on the opposite spectrum than she was. You know what I'm saying? That's what it appears. What does that mean for black voters? Well, or for black families. It could mean that, it means 2 things. It means that no matter what happens next week, the legacy of Donald Trump has been submitted through not only the Supreme Court, but also the fact that he's been able to appoint 217. That's the latest number that I've read. If you got latest information, please share with me. 217 federal judges throughout the criminal justice system, right? 217. And now a conservative supermajority, 3 of his appointees, right? It is what it is. So we're going to be talking about Donald Trump long after Donald Trump leaves office. If he leaves office, let's say he loses next week, he won't leave office until, of course, January 2021. And I just think it underscores the long-term thinking that, we need in our communities. This is, some of this stuff is long-term. It's 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years down the line with consistently keeping your priorities and your agenda in front of you. And that's what the conservative elements did. Now, why would they do something like this? And did anybody get a chance to see during the nomination process, you had Senator White, I think it's Whitehead, or is it Whitehorse? Let me make sure I get to say it right. I don't want to say it wrong. Whitehouse, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. Man, he dropped superlative flows about the whole dark money pipeline that was behind Amy Coney Barrett. It's millions of dollars, dozens and dozens and dozens of years. The GOP, they cultivate this. The Federal Society, they cultivate these kind of justices, looking forward, look, we're going to put you on the Supreme Court so you'll serve our interest. And so while you got millennials, Generation X, right? Generation Z voters. So it looks like the electorate is going to get more diverse. You got many, many cities throughout the country, even in the South, where the majority of black people still reside. They're living in cities where you kind of have these Democrat enclaves, but the entire state legislature and the state itself is run by Republicans. So they still have to deal with those kind of targeted, legislative ideas, right? And then when it works its way up the federal pipeline or the court pipeline, boom, you'll end up with a Trump judge, right? That's what's going to happen. Listen, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of civil rights issues in front of us. Don't forget, it was back in 2013. What is it? The Shelby case, I believe it was. Let me sure I got that right. Yeah. I believe it was. In which the Supreme Court essentially said that we're now post-racial. So you had some states that had a history of discriminating against its minority citizens, right? Trying to stop their ability or make it more difficult for them to vote. So they had to get federal pre-clearance before they would change any laws. Well, back in 2013, Supreme Court said, we post-racial now. Oh, we came up with those rules and protections for non-white people in terms of their voting rights. We came up with those rules in a different era. This is 2013. Like 7 years ago. They was like, no, we post-racial. We don't need for these states to pre-clear. And since then, those states have been busy doing whatever they can to legally stop people in the South to vote. So when people think like, oh, the Supreme Court has no impact, well, that ain't true. That's not true. And then you never know what the issues could be before the courts. You never know. I mean, people are talking about some of the big things like, a woman's right to choose. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, what I would say is all those folks out there who didn't vote or, you abstained or you voted, or you wrote in Zorro or whatever, that must not be something that's really important to you. Like, I'm not one of those kind of people that has to lose something before I know what I have. You know what I'm saying? Some people are like that. Some people have to lose something before they're like, you know what? I had a good thing. I had a good thing. I'm not one of those folks. I don't need to lose control of the internet before I realize, you know what? I like a free internet. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a little different. Just a little different. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a.k.a. AOC, and Ilhan Omar, they tweeted that the Democrats should expand the court. This was moments right after Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed by the Senate last night. And by expand the court, apparently there's a legislative process by which the majority in Congress can actually put more seats on the Supreme Court. Now, why would the Democrats do this? Well, they would do this. Let's say they put, and how many more seats would they have to do? Would it be like 4 more seats, 5 more seats? In order to, because if you're going to do something like that, well, you got to be gangster about it, right? If the Democrats expand the court, they shouldn't expand the court to get a balance. They should take a page from the Republicans and expand the court if, in fact, those kind of circumstances ever come together, because that would mean a bunch of things happen in the Democrats' favor. But if they had that opportunity, they should shoot for the moon. Expand the court and get yourself a majority. Isn't that what the Republicans would do? It is what it is. 513-873-7134. So I just want to remind people, we're looking at the manifestation of long-term thinking. We're looking at the manifestation of long-term planning. This didn't just happen overnight. Amy Coney Barrett wasn't just like a name they pull out of a hat. She was cultivated. There are 4, like I'm saying, while black folks is running around trying to get the bare bottom, we were trying to get people out to vote. You got people on the other side. And I just say that in that way because I think that perhaps what they care about on the big issues might be on the opposite of what perhaps a black voter might think or might care about. They've been working on this for 25, 30 years. I'm telling you, I'm not lying. I've read it myself, reading in these magazines like, oh, damn, so they're trying to do, and they did it. And they're going to continue to do it. AOC said that she thinks that the Republicans make these kind of moves because they don't think the Democrats will do anything about it. There is a common perception out there that the Democrat Party is weak. There's a common perception that the Democrat Party is weak, feckless. They can't get it up. They ain't ready. They ain't really about that life. That's the common perception out there. I hear from people in my family. I get it from voters all the time. I get it locally, regionally, and nationally. That's what I get. Is that true? Well, they say perception is reality. So yeah, it's true in the minds of a lot of people that have that perception. It is what it is. So we'll see. All these poll numbers, I don't give a damn about these poll numbers. All these poll numbers, we have to see what actually happens a week from today. We have to see what actually happens a week from today. And then we can make a determination as to whether, like, if let's say the Democrats get Joe Biden in the White House and then they get a majority in the Senate, they'll still have a majority in Congress. Now, what you going to do with this for 2 years? What are they going to do with this? You're going to priddle around and, walk in the walls and slip on banana peels and fall through trap doors. I mean, what are you going to do? We'll see. And here it is. Republicans do this because they don't believe Dems have the stones to play hardball like they do. And for a long time, they've been correct. But do not let them bully the public into thinking their bulldozing is normal, but a response isn't. There is a legal process for expansion. Nancy Pelosi last night. President Trump and Senate Republicans have committed an act of supreme desperation, jamming through a Supreme Court nominee just 8 days before the election as part of their years-long campaign to destroy America's health care. Now think about this. We are in the middle of a pandemic. And the Trump administration is in court right now arguing to take away your health care. Does that make any sense? When the Republicans had an opportunity to put a plan in place, they couldn't agree upon one. I watched that 60 Minutes interview. Donald Trump's talking like a damn fool. And Leslie Stahl, props to Leslie Stahl, who showed a lot more backbone than Jason Whitlock in his interview. You see that interview? Jason Whitlock should have got on his knees, essentially he did, and put his lips right on the rump of Trump. This is a black man. But Leslie Stahl, white female, she had the stones to hold Donald Trump accountable to his face. When he started to lie, she was like, well, wait a minute, that's unfounded. There's no facts behind that. Well, sure it is, Leslie. Wait a minute. No, it's not. Donald Trump is one of those kind of people that to your face will try to tell you what you think. Now, you don't really believe that. Nah, you don't really think. Wait a minute. Is there anything more irritating into a smart, intelligent person? There's somebody that don't know you trying to tell you what you think. There are a few things. So they want to take away your health care. They've got no plan whatsoever, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. So we'll see what the impact of the votes are. We'll see what the impact is. We'll see how all of this all plays out. Again, from a political science standpoint, it's fascinating. We live in an amazing time. It's fascinating to sit back and see the moves that have been made and what's going to happen in the near future. We'll see. We'll see. Law students will be debating this in the years to come, what this means. It's going to be quite interesting to see. But I'm more interested at this point in terms of what is the response, because the first move has already been made. What are we going to do about it? What are progressives going to do about it? What are black voters going to do about it? Does this matter to black voters? How much does this really matter to you as a voter if you're a black person? How much does this whole SCOTUS thing and the Supreme Court play into your presidential vote? Do you even really care? Do you feel like, okay, Supreme Court? I mean, because some people get that cynical attitude, right? It's like, it don't matter. Democrats, Republicans, they all hate us. Don't really matter. And I get it. But I don't believe that is accurate to the reality of what's really going on here. I don't believe that's accurate whatsoever. I think it's a good way to sort of throw your hands in the air and put your head in the sand and not really understand and take the time to really understand the differences in what's happening here. And we'll find out. We'll find out who she is. Sometimes you get a Supreme Court justice and everybody thinks, oh, they're going to be a hardcore to one way or the other, and they surprise you. But I think those were the old days when perhaps, and I'm not saying that the process has ever had a lot of integrity for black folks, but when perhaps there was more integrity in the game. There's no integrity in the game at all anymore. There ain't no bipartisan shit. It's working together. It's winner takes all. That's what it's about right now. Winner takes all. You get the majority, you do whatever the hell you want to do as long as you want to do it until you can't do it anymore. And then when the other side gets in office, well, you criticize them for doing exactly what you just did. That's what I see. But what do you see? 513-873-7134. Again, that's a free number anywhere in the country and in some places around the world. All right, just open your mind before you open your mouth and we all good. Let's go straight to the phones and welcome in Black Russia. What's up, Black Russia?
Nathan Ivy. Good morning.
Good morning. What's going on, brother?
Not too much. Hey, I'm listening to you this morning. We're a week out from the election. And I read something yesterday that made me very upset. It was from CNN. I don't know if you saw this, but CNN actually did a story on the number of African Americans turning out to vote and the reasons why they're turning out to vote. I found the reasons to be very interesting and very sad at the same time too. Like, one of the reasons that Black folks that they interviewed were turning out to vote is because they were afraid of the courts. That right there, that explanation right there made me sad. I read this yesterday. They confirmed the justice yesterday. And it's like you're voting next week because you're concerned about what's going on today. like it's over. Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed, and they got African Americans on the CNN article talking about they voting because they're concerned about the Supreme Court. Like, should have been concerned about the Supreme Court in 2016 when the Federalists were, 2012, 2008. I went to law school during the time that you're describing, like, well, not 30 years ago, but in the last 10 years. I went from 2010 and I graduated in 2014. And, every law school across the country, I went to Michigan State, has a Federal Society chapter. So, like, I was going to the events and everything that the Federal Society put on. Bruh, you were absolutely right. They've been talking about taking over the federal judiciary forever. That's always been the play. And finally, they culminated last night. They played the long game. They've had this list out of judges. It's like a draft list. You know what I'm saying? Like the NFL, you like what's your boy Mel Kiper, and he got the draft list of players that you want if they're available during the time. That's exactly how the Federal Society played the Democrats. And AOC is right. And you know what? One thing before my grandmother died at 90 this year, what she said about AOC, she has the ability to save the Democratic Party from itself. 90-year-old woman, and she watched this her entire life. She basically said if they don't listen to AOC, they're going to lose every time because they have no backbone. She's there to give them a backbone, but they marginalize her. They put her to the side. It's really disgusting to see because she's got the strategy to really own the Republican Party. But the Democrats don't really want to own the Republican Party like the Republican Party want to own the Democratic Party. And that's terrible tactics. That's why we saw what we saw yesterday, because the Democrats aren't willing to go to the lengths that the Republicans are willing to do to get their agenda across. They'd rather lose with dignity than win at all costs. And the other side ain't playing like that. So the only play that they got, AOC's made the statement exactly. She made a great point. They got to expand the justice on the Supreme Court if they want to be relevant in the judiciary. I got a number for you. 6. They got to go 6 seats. Got to take it to 15. That way there's no ties. They already got 3 Democrats on there. You add 6, that's 9. You win 9 to 6. Maybe you get some fluctuation with a couple of justices, but you're pretty much going to guarantee your spot in terms of jurisprudence. And people don't even understand this. In the circuit courts across the country, I believe there's 13 or 14 circuit courts across the country. There's 15 circuit court judges on each circuit. So, like, for example, they have the 3-judge panel after a district court trial or hearing or whatever like that when they appeal. They'll have three appeals court judges that hear the case. Well, if there's some controversy amongst those 3, guess what? Then they hear it en banc, which simply means that the whole court here, the whole 15 line up, get out there, and they hear the case and they vote, whether it's 8-7, 9-6, whatever the outcome is before it gets to the Supreme Court. The Democrats, if they're smart, all you got to do is just run 6 more justices up there, make it 15, and explain, every other circuit court has 15 judges that may hear the case en banc. There's your explanation. Republicans make it up on a fly. How come the Democrats can't? It's like that's the type of stuff that LC be trying to educate them on about just being straight ruthless. That's why they call them the squad. They ain't out here playing. They out here trying to do gangster politics. But the Democrats are too nice about that. While Mitch McConnell's out here Al Caponeing it up. So
he is Al Caponeing it up. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I like the way you're thinking, though, man. I mean, I'm down with that. I've read that people have said it's something very similar to that. Increase it to 15, if not the exact same idea. So, I want to see what they're going to do. Don't do it. Don't expand it by 2 or 3. Expand it so that now you have a majority. If you're going to make the move all the way.
Oh, yeah. If you're going to do it, you got to do it big. You don't go halfway. You go all out.
Because the consequences are going to be the same no matter what.
Right. Now, I will disagree with you a little bit. You said that the that there's no surprises on the Supreme, that there hasn't been really. I'll say John Roberts has been a big surprise.
No, I didn't say that. I said there
surprise.
have been surprises, that sometimes you can get somebody and you got a perception of them and they surprise you. You think they're going to be a hardcore conservative, they become more of a moderate. You think they're going to be a hardcore liberal, they become more moderate. That's the history that I understand from the courts.
Yeah, I misheard you there. That's what I thought it meant. But yeah, I agree with you, because John Roberts shocked everybody with the Obamacare rule.
True.
And he's still, really shocking people with writings that, really don't get a whole lot of headlines. But John Roberts is out here trying to hold the court together. And now he's in a position where he can't. They said this is, I said this before, this is now Clarence Thomas's court. You see, they walked him out there to give her the oath. This is his court now.
Now, why do you say that?
Known. I'm sorry?
Why do you say it's Clarence Thomas's court?
Because he's going to be, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he is the elder conservative on the court now. Between Alito, Roberts, now Barrett, and Kavanaugh, he's been in it long. I think he's been there So he's gonna be the senior guy that people are gonna be looking to write these conservative opinions. You're gonna see more Clarence Thomas now. He didn't have to say nothing for the last 7-8 years until recently. Now you're gonna hear him talking a whole lot because he got a whole lot to say because he got backup there.
Interesting. That's interesting, man. Hey, Black Russian, anything else?
That's it. You need to give me a holler, bro.
Oh, for sure. You already know. Take it easy.
Talk to you.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I missed you yesterday, but for sure, man. Absolutely. Most def. That's interesting. So he says increases to 15, which would be what, 6 more justices? Yeah, 6 more justices. I'm okay with that. Why not? Like, how much does this all matter to you? Does you really care about the Supreme Court? Does that matter to you? Are you like, meh? Supreme Court, don't worry about Hamilton County Court, right? You tell me. There's my number. Listen, please take a second to like and share today's show. When you share the show, more people see it. It means everything. Yes. Interesting. I was reading a very interesting article, man, about the money in politics here locally. Republicans raising big bucks. Apparently, Joe Dieters is leading the pack. He's raised like $1.3 million. Now, we know he had like $600,000 like near the beginning of the race. What's being reported is that Fanon Rucker, his challenger, has raised $322,000 in total funds as of the most recent report that the Inquirer got their hands on. Apparently, the Dieters campaign was bolstered by large donations from business leaders like the Linder family. Gave $40,000. How about that? Former Cintas CEO gave Dieters $15,000. Yeah, so it looks like big business is turning out. And they are going big with Joe Dieters. Now, is that a personal thing? Is that a personality thing? Or is Joe covering their backs on some political interest? I don't know. You tell me. Even in some of the other races I'm reading here, Republican candidate Bruce Hoffbauer raised $393,000 as of October 15th. And Democrat candidate Charmaine McGuffey has raised $173,000 at the same time. Republican Andy Black has raised $336,000. And Leisha Reese raised a total of $200,000. Although, from what I'm reading, she did edge Black out between June 1st and October 15th, raising $190,000 compared to his $121,000. Yeah, I need some. Thank you. Pour my tea, like tea that you actually drink. Speak with Andy Black today. And I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of torn about the interview. Like, this is precious airspace right here. Here we are a week before the election. Getting in front of you is a very, very precious opportunity. But I'm interested because there's some lingering questions that I have about Mr. Black that I just want to hear his thoughts on. They're scheduled for, let me double check here. I think it's 9 a.m. this morning. Yeah, 9 a.m. this morning. He's scheduled to give us a call. So we'll talk about that and the eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And then I think he wants to sell the bingo stadium. So we'll talk about all of that today, later on today. Very, very interesting. Yeah, it's quite interesting. How do you explain the differences in the sums of money that some of the Republican candidates have been raising as opposed to the Democrat candidates? Is that like a response to the perception that they're going to need it because Trump is at the ticket and all the poll numbers are like pointing in the opposite direction of Republican candidates? I don't know. Well, you tell me. I think that's quite interesting. It was funny though, because I knew there was a moment in the NAACP forum, and as I understand it, that's the only forum in which Alicia Reese, Andy Black, and Herman Najoli were all there. If I'm wrong about that, set me straight. So I don't want to be wrong, but I think I'm right about that. Very interesting. What do you think? 513-873-7134. As I told you, in all of those races, in my opinion, there is a clear-cut choice. It ain't even close. It ain't even close in any of those races, in my humble opinion. You got to make your own decision. Now, does money absolutely always equate into a win? In a lot of cases, most cases, you probably say yeah, but not in all cases. Remember Stephanie Dumas? Chris Monzel. And you got to remember the thing about the Hamilton County Commission. It's three people on the Hamilton County, the Board of Hamilton County Commissioners, right? Or Hamilton County Board of Commissioners. There's three people there already. Two of them are already Democrats, right? So let's say Andy Black becomes the next Hamilton County Commissioner. He's in the minority. I'm not saying that you can't have influence. Obviously you can. But there's two other Democrats down there. I'm going to ask him about that. I mean, I hear your ideas. Some of them sound real good, kind of. But how are you going to get that done as the only Republican and there's two other Democrats down there? Or perhaps that's what people in the county want. They want balance. We'll find out. 513-873-7134. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mr. Ivy. This is your West Side Connection calling in bright and early out here on the left coast, also known as the People's Republic of California. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I want to give a shout out to the Alt Middle and all their affiliates and the Chop Shop resident political operative, Black Russia. Great phone call. Mr. Ivy, Joe Biden has spent $600 million on television ads alone. Maybe that explains the strategy behind them keeping him in the basement and off the campaign trail. In 2016, crooked Hillary Clinton and the Democrat Party spent $1 billion to lose to the first orange president, also known as the first gangster president, Donald J. Trump. Mr. Ivy, cash rules everything around me. Money is speech, just like the Supreme Court said. And speaking of the Supreme Court, can you say 6-3? Can you say 6-3 conservative majority for many? Oh, there he is. There's the man. I see you. That's the future. Good morning, everybody. Go ahead. Say hi to Drop Squad 52.
Say hi, Drop.
Hi, Drop.
Hey, what's up, little man? What can I do, Nate? He done stole my shine. That face, that smile.
Yeah,
a mini Nathan.
Pretty much.
He looked just like you, man.
Thank you.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That is beautiful. What can I say, Mr. Ivy? That is the future. Black family love. A father embracing his young son. Mr. Ivy, I'm telling you, sir. Woo! It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So Mr. Ivy, before I was interrupted, which was great to see that young man. Mr. Ivy, I'm just saying, with a week to go, a week from today, the media and the Democrats, and even you sometimes on your show, keeps touting the early vote. Mr. Ivy, last year, Hillary Clinton, I think she received about 65 million votes last year. And if I'm correct, so far, say again?
You said Hillary Clinton last year? You mean last election?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The last election cycle, Hillary Clinton received about, I think it was 65 million votes. And right now, I think they're saying so far, 1/3 of last year's basically what I'm saying, Mr. Ivy, if Hillary Clinton only received 65 million votes in 2016, and right now I think there's about 60 or 70 million early votes that have already been cast, that means that a lot of Democrats have already voted. So a week from today on election night, when you see these long lines at these polling stations, more than likely they're going to be Republicans, Mr. Ivy. So I don't see how the Democrats are in a good position right now, considering the number of people that are at these Trump rallies. Did you see the rallies that he had yesterday in Pennsylvania, Mr. Ivy?
Nah, I missed that.
It was unbelievable.
How many people were there?
You missed it. I know you missed it. I know you saw it. Because, Mr. Ivy, it's amazing how now all of a sudden, every place Trump has gone, all of a sudden the media is now saying that every place Trump stops, the coronavirus positive test spike. They know good and dang well there is no direct correlation between a Trump rally, also known as a peaceful protest, and an outbreak of positive coronavirus.
Well, we know that's not true.
But Mr. Ivy, why didn't they make the same comparison 4 months ago when protests were happening across the country? They weren't talking to those people and telling them they were super spreaders. They never put the correlation together.
Well, because they had no reason
protesting led to positive coronavirus tests. It never happened.
What, didn't the president have coronavirus?
Yes, and many people
members
in his staff.
Members of his staff?
Yes.
Okay. Having people who went to these...
The vice president as well.
The vice president as well. Didn't Herman Cain, who went to a Trump rally, didn't he die of COVID-19?
No, Herman Cain had cancer.
Oh, he died of cancer? I thought it was reported he died of COVID-19.
Well, Mr. Ivy, we already know how hospitals are...
He could have had cancer but still died of COVID-19.
Okay, Mr. Ivy, we already know that hospitals are playing around with the deaths because they know they get money if they list the person died with coronavirus or of coronavirus.
Do you have any evidence?
Okay.
Do you have any evidence that the hospital did that in Herman Cain's case?
I don't need to, Mr.
Okay, so you don't have any evidence. So Herman Cain died of COVID-19 after going to a Trump rally. That's the reason why it's a story in the media. Because wherever Trump goes, he came to Columbus. I'm sorry, he came to Ohio, northern Ohio. And when he left, he left people with coronavirus. So everywhere the man goes.
No, that was Mike DeWine. Mike DeWine had coronavirus.
DeWine didn't go to the rally. There were people at the rally that tested positive for coronavirus. So everywhere Trump goes,
Mr. Ivy.
Everywhere Trump goes, or should I say too many places where Trump has been, he leaves coronavirus. That's the reason why it's a media story.
Okay, Mr. Ivy, the reason the media is trying to discourage people or scare Republicans is because they know that they're going to turn out on election day. And the desperate Democrats and their willing accomplice in the mainstream media, they see these images of these thousands of Republican voters showing up on short notice, Mr. Ivy, to appear at these rallies in these hangars. Now, they know, Mr. Ivy, they know this is going to happen on election day. They know it. So with a week to go, with 7 days to go, Black Russia was 100% correct. All the promises that the Democrat Party made to their electorate, reasons to elect them was, one, they were going to pick a Black Supreme Court female justice. That's out. That is not a reason to make people vote Democrat. Then they said What else? What else did they say, Mr. Ivy? That is already, it doesn't matter now.
Well,
okay, it
he
doesn't
said
matter.
he's going to handle the
Kamala Harris
COVID-19 pandemic a lot better than Donald Trump. So I think there's a lot of room to grow in that area.
But Mr. Ivy, you see the early turnout numbers. You can only vote one time. It doesn't matter when you vote. It matters when your vote is counted. Okay? And Black Russia was right. There have been many times out here in California where the people have spoken at the ballot box, and then later they had these initiatives challenged in court and overturned in court by these lower courts who are throwing, 6-3, Mr. Ivy, that is, for the Republican Party to throw Donald Trump under the bus for what he's just accomplished in America's courts, from the Supreme Court down to the Circuit Court. He appointed over 200 judges. So all I got to say is thank you, Barack Obama.
Vacant seats
Where
is
is Barack Obama? The magic Negro ain't helping. All he doing is running around telling everybody what they already know about the Trumpster instead of talking about policy. Barack Obama is not talking about the policies. He is not talking about the policies of his former vice president. He is not talking about the policies.
Let me make sure I understand what you're saying here. So you telling me
yes, sir,
that Trump appointing a vacant seat is an accomplishment?
6-3 is the accomplishment. He appointed he appointed Judge Kavanaugh, and he appointed I can't think of the other guy. you know the guy, the first one that he appointed.
Yeah, we all know the history, but I'm saying to call it an accomplishment, I think is a stretch. You know what I'm saying?
6-3, Mr. Ivy, 6-3. Do you know how long that will keep the court conservative unless the Democrats win and they have the balls to add more justices like Black Russia was talking about? But they got to win the election first. They got to win control of the Senate first.
True.
They got to maintain control of the House of Representatives first.
True.
So all this talk, Mr. Ivy, about, we got this thing locked up. Yesterday, Joe Biden talking about, we got to make our blue wall solid. That means black folks. And then, Mr. Ivy, you had KRS-One. Did you see the Roland Martin show?
Yeah, I got to talk about KRS-One this morning.
It keeps happening. It keeps happening. The black divide in the Democrat Party is real. It's always been there, but because of social media and this medium right now that we're on, it is being exposed.
Yeah, KRS-One sound like a damn fool. I said KRS-One sound like a damn fool.
But Mr. Ivy, it's just another one. It's what I've been telling you from day one. The black electorate is going through changes, and it's happening. It started in 2000, in the year 2000. That's when it started. But it's really coming to a head in 2020. We saw the little white part in 2016. Now that pimple is about to pop. Now, again, I'm not making any predictions about next week, but if you look at these rallies, if that is any indication of what Republican voter turnout is going to be on a week from today, on November 3rd, a lot of Democrats better get ready for the second term of President Donald John Trump. Drop Squad 52, dropping science to anyone who wants to catch you. Walking while retired, baby. It ain't how you start, it's how you finish.
All day, every day. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Hopefully nobody's catching that nonsense. But he brought up something that is definitely on my list of things to talk about this morning, and that's KRS-One. We got to talk about this brother. Where they make these brothers from. And see, sometimes, KRS-One underscores what I've said for many years. Open your mind before you open your mouth. He should have thought things out before he opened his mouth. So KRS-One was on Instagram talking about voting and said some things that to me kind of put him on the category of being a smart, dumb cat. Like nobody will deny his talent. Like if you go back to the halcyon days of hip hop, KRS-One was looked upon as that conscious rapper. talking about social issues, political issues, trying to encourage people. And now he's turned into this. So he's doing an interview on Instagram. They're talking about voting. He starts talking about how he don't believe in voting. And like I told you, if you're a black man or woman in 2020 talking about you don't believe in voting, you are a threat to your own family. You're a threat to your own community. We don't need you. We don't need you. You can't get down like that, even locally. Then he starts talking about the electoral college, mispronouncing it, which, it happens. It ain't the worst thing in the world, but, the worst thing I would love, the thing I would hate is for people to see that and be like, oh, I feel the same way. He right. He right. And I thought on the Roland Martin show, they took him to task, and rightly so. Damn, brother. I mean, just keep your mouth closed, KRS-One. Don't say nothing about it. Like, if you don't know what you're talking about, we vote for this guy. I mean, his facts was all wrong. He was talking as if, see, when you vote for president, you're really voting for an electoral college, an electoral college representative, and they can vote any way they want to. As if, and it just showed a lack of knowledge on how the process really works. He was up there talking like, you can vote for Hillary, and then the electoral college representative can vote for Trump. That's not happening. That's not what went down. Damn it, KRS-One. That's not what happened. You need to be educated about what you're talking about, man. Oh my gosh, it was quite disappointing. It really was. It was quite disappointing. And this is a week before the election. And the brother's probably meaning well, but two things can be true at the same time. You can be meaning well, like Ice Cube was, and end up sounding like a damn fool. Two things can be true at the same time. Everybody's out here caping for ICE now, making excuses, and that's what the brother meant and all this kind of stuff. I even had a listener, he and I fell out over a conversation about Ice Cube. Yeah. Y'all heard it? About fucking Ice Cube. Like Ice Cube paying you. Like he paying me or something. But it is what it is. And, Ice Cube out here doing interviews, trying to explain himself. That's because if he had did it right the first time, he wouldn't have to keep doing these interviews to explain himself. It is what it is. Telling you, it is what it is. Good morning to you. 513-873-7134. If you'd like to share your thoughts. KRS-One is the latest. Where do you get these dudes from? Kanye, 50, Ice Cube, now KRS-One. Now KRS-One. I mean, great artist. Tremendous artist, man. Great flows. And you got the kind of music you can still listen to. The Sound of the Police. I mean, come on, still relevant today. Still relevant today. I don't care where you are. But, I mean, some of these dudes and their views on voting, they think that's revolutionary, but it's not. There's nothing revolutionary about saying, okay, you're going to play chess, but then you're not going to use your queen. You're not going to use certain certain pieces that are on the board because you don't feel like they're as effective. If you're a great chess player, if you know how to play chess, you can make it happen with your pawns. If you're a great chess player, you can make it happen where you can get a good little pawn rook game together, mix in a bishop here or there. You can have a tight game. These dumb fuckers out here talking about put one hand behind your back, put two hands behind your back, now go out there and do something. It makes no sense. And I get the cynicism that people have about voting. I'm not saying it's a panacea. The real panacea is what we do in our own communities, but it's a tool in the toolbox. You go buy a big box of tools, all of them have a role. They all serve a purpose. You may not use the screwdriver on every single job. You may not use the hammer on every single job. But when you need a hammer, damn it, you need a hammer. And when you need a screwdriver, you need a screwdriver. Who goes out here and buys, you know what, I need some tools. You buy a big set of tools and you walk in there and just say, you know what? I don't need that. What's this? I don't need this. You use the tools that are at your disposal when you need them, period. That's all voting is. It's nothing more than that. You smart dumb cats running around like, what does that change the world? Well, actually, you got to change your world. That's not what voting is about. Voting is deciding on who's going to represent us and where the resources go. If you want to change your community, then get busy. Then get busy in your community. That's not what voting is going to do. It's nothing more than a tool. Nothing more. But some of these smart dumb cats want to lift it up like it's like the instrument of the gods. Right? No, it's not. What has voting done for you over the last 30 years? I just turn a deaf ear like this fool. And these are grown people. Like, what am I going to say to a grown person who has that kind of mentality? Nothing. I can't do nothing for you, bro. You unsavable. You are unsavable. You're on your own. I'm sorry. So MCs act like they don't know. KRS-One is acting like he don't know. Well, you don't know? It's a damn shame. I'm telling you, it's a damn shame the world that we live in. Oh, man, sorry, Rice. He sounds like a damn fool. Yeah, he did. Now 50's out here talking about F Trump, walking it back. I mean, this is all a game. It's all a game. Akeem writes, blaze up. This is America KKK. Fast Pitch writes, good morning. All go vote except for the Karens and Darrens, super spreaders, and their sympathizers. Yeah, we don't want the Karen Darrens, the super spread. We don't want none of y'all out there voting. Sorry. Andrea writes, morning, Nate and the family. Good morning to you. Kutha writes, good morning, choppers. Jack writes, super majority danger, everybody. Head for the choppers. That's right. That's right. If Trump gets reelected, man, we all need to head for the choppers and get the hell out of Dodge. Brian writes, everybody have a blessed day. Dill writes, good morning, Nate and the choppers. Woody writes, happy rising, brother Nathan and the choppers. Wear your mask. Absolutely. You know that. Dale writes, y'all need to go on YouTube later and check out Black women's views on Jared Kushner's comments. Yeah, I like that. I like that show. Brenda writes, good morning. Kara Mitchell writes, good morning. Yeah. So Jared Kushner has something to say about, yes, Black Lives Matter activist. Yeah, and what he said was, I think, ultimately unhelpful to Black Americans. I'm so tired of these Trump minions and their sense of entitlement. I'm so sick of them, but it is what it is. They're dealing with the Lincoln Project right now. Yeah, they got other issues to deal with right now. Very revealing comments. Says that Black Americans need to want to be successful. That's what Jared Kushner says. Yeah. He says that Black Americans have to want to help themselves in order for the president's policies to help them. He said that on Fox and Friends. He said that Donald Trump can help people in the Black community break out of the problems that they're complaining about, but he can't want them to be successful more than they want to be successful. Yeah. This is what Jared Kushner thinks about Black America. What Black person is he talking about? So Jared Kushner's view of the larger Black community is that Black folks don't want to be successful. And that if only we would embrace the idea of being successful, then we put ourselves in a position to allow Trump's policies to help us. Okay. He also said that many people in the anti-police brutality and discrimination protests that followed the death of George Floyd were just, quote unquote, virtue signaling. Meaning that it was just an empty gesture of outrage or anguish on social media. Quote, they go on Instagram and cry, or they would, put on a slogan on their jersey or write something on a basketball court. So just completely dismissing the displays we saw from, let's say, he said basketball courts, let's say the NBA, the whole Black Lives Matter thing. See, like to me, I'll be honest with you, as I was watching the NBA finals, the whole Black Lives Matter thing kind of like blended into the background. For some people, it was the only thing they could see. It was the biggest thing on the court. They couldn't get over it. This is Jared Kushner. I mean, why would we be surprised? So Joe Biden said you ain't black if you vote for Trump. And Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is saying that if you're black and you don't vote for Trump, then you don't want to be successful. It's just, I mean, that's what I hear. What do you hear? Good morning, everybody. With Donna Khan putting Stepford wife Amy as the Supreme Court, can you say Hanger is coming back? I hope not. Dale writes facts, Nate, they don't care. Tiffany's in the house. She writes, good morning, Nate and the Choppers. Tiffany does a great podcast. People should check it out on Facebook. She talks about real estate. It is dope. Judge Barrett is an activist judge, yeah. Dale writes, Sheldon White House, thank you. Kelly writes, good morning, great people. Good to see you, Kelly. Get involved in politics. Educate yourself on how you can make a difference. The game is evolving. Voting matters. So I just love it. So Jared Kushner is white-splaining. He's a white guy trying to explain to black people how to get out of the condition that they're in. And in his head, if you're not successful, it's because you haven't embraced success. And until you embrace success, then his father-in-law's policies will never hit you. Is there any truth in that? Well, I just reject who it's coming from and the way that I perceive that it was said. I just reject that off the top just because it's coming from him, okay? And he's connected with the Trump White House. Although black people already know this. And I talked about this yesterday, that you are the star of your own life. It's you. The biggest factor that will determine what your future is or will be is you. But we already know this. The light, the wind beneath your sails is you. The fire that they so-called light underneath you, it's you. It won't be the Democrats. It won't be the Republicans. It won't be the Independents. It won't be the Green Party. It won't be it won't be the Latinas, the Latinos. It won't be the Chinese. It won't be the whites. I know the whites. It will be black people that liberate black people. We already know that. We got it. Thank you, Jared. We got it. Don't you have a dictator to shield for or something like that? Get back to your job. Ballhead writes, good morning, Nate and the Choppers. Democrats should pass legislation to recall federal judges. Quite a few of those judges were deemed unqualified. Some of them had never tried a case. That's right. You don't need qualifications in the new America. You don't need that. Janice writes, good morning. Mae Jones writes, good morning, Nate and the Choppers. Not little Amy. She will do whatever her husband tells her to do. Little Amy? Alicia writes, why do I have the sinking feeling that Trump will win the election? Because he did it in 2016. Again, at this point, we don't know. I'm not looking at any poll numbers. I'm not looking at any turnout numbers. The only numbers I care about are the numbers on election night and the day afterward. That's it. I don't care about any prognostication. I don't care about any numbers. None of that means anything to me right now. The only thing that matters is the numbers on election day, and that's it. Janice writes, Donald Trump uses the pimps up, hoes down indoctrination tactics. He starts off saying the harshest things just to see how much more you are willing to take. From that point on, he's got you. His grandfather owned brothels. He's pimped out the Republican Party and his 47% of followers. Angela writes, 4 more years, don't shoot the messenger. Could be. Have to wait and see. Anthony writes, morning choppers. Dale writes, yes, Black Russia's correct. Black Russian is nuts. Sambo Clarence is the worst Supreme in American KKK history. Coke and wife tells him how to rule. A ballhead writes, it matters. It's my kid's future. Well, if it matters, there needs to be a black progressive push for the Supreme Court on the same level of the federal society, if that's even possible. Because they're ingrained in the culture right there, right? For the next 50 years. That's what needs to happen. Rachel writes, good morning, family in the Choppers. The National Supreme Court could completely change our lives as we know it. No more UDF for me. That's Woody. After the lenders giving big money to Joe Dieters. Oh, they love Joe Dieters. They love Joe. Heard Joe's a hell of a guy behind closed doors, right? Like he's a really people like him. I've talked to some of these Republican types here in Cincinnati, Hamilton County. They rave about Joe Dieters. Oh, he's the best friend ever. He's the best guy. Okay. Let's take a break. We'll come right back. 513-873-7134 is my number. If you would choose to, let's say, transform your brain waves into internet talk radio waves this morning, I am here to receive your thoughts. What do you think a conservative supermajority in the SCOTUS would mean for black folks? And what do you think about the comments of KRS-One, who says he doesn't believe in voting and he had a lot of things wrong, but there's a lot of folks that have that viewpoint. When celebrities come out and give those viewpoints like so close to the election, do you think it'll have an impact on people voting? Tell me what you think. We'll be right back.
The Nathan Ivy Show is supported by listeners. Go to www.patreon.com/Nathan Ivy Show and help Nathan keep the show independent.
Democrats voting for Charlie Winburn. Democrat Malcolm Timmons.
I'm voting for Charlie Winburn because he is a man that does what he says he's going to do, and he gets things done for our community.
Democrat Nettie Matthews.
Of course I'm voting for my brother Charlie Winburn because he cares about the black community.
Democrat Paul Booth.
I'm voting for my longtime friend, Charlie Winburn. He will put people over party.
Democrat Zakiya Allen.
I'm voting for Charlie Winburn because he has a positive track record in our community.
Democrat Charles Wiley.
I am voting for Charlie Winburn because he would be accountable to us.
Democrat Klein Carricker.
I'm voting for Charlie Winburn because he helps to train hundreds of African Americans through his leadership masterclass.
Democrat Jafanya Wynn.
I'm voting for Charlie Winburn because he cares about women with children, providing child care and a school for K through 8th graders.
Democrat T. Renee.
I want to see the first African American county treasurer elected after 230 years.
Vote Charlie Winburn for Hamilton County Treasurer.
Paid for by friends of Charlie Winburn.
This is State Senator Cecil Thomas asking you to vote for Charmaine McGuffey for Sheriff of Hamilton County. As a former police officer, I know Charmaine is the only qualified candidate to be sheriff. She stands with our community and will lead with accountability. Her opponent used excessive force in the killing of an unarmed black man and led the highly controversial Vortex unit. He is the last person we need to lead our sheriff's office. Trust the judgment of someone who knows. Vote Charmaine McGuffey for sheriff, a vote for justice.
This is Charmaine McGuffey asking for your vote, paid for by People for McGuffey for Sheriff.
This is Zoe Wesson. What side of history do you want to be on? The right side, or one where black people continue to be underrepresented in Hamilton County? Now's your chance to end 230 years of exclusion. In Charlie Winburn, we have a man that's received the Cincinnati NAACP President's Award, who fought on the Ohio Civil Rights Commission for 6 years, who received the Baptist Ministers Conference Community Service Award. Charlie Winburn has received the Southern Christian Leadership Conference Award and was honored by WDBZ The Buzz as Pastor of the Month. We know Charlie Winburn, and he knows us. He's the right man to put us on the right side of history. On Tuesday, November 3rd, vote for Charlie Winburn for Hamilton County Treasurer.
I am Charlie Winburn, and I'm asking you for your vote on Tuesday, November the 3rd, paid for by friends of Charlie Winburn.
You're listening to The Nathan Ivy Show. One man, one microphone, one mission. Now, let's get back to the flow.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. 513-873-7134. I left with the number. I'll leave with it again. Listen, we can agree to disagree, family, always. Always, we can agree to disagree. It's all good. Good morning to you. Let's get into it, shall we? Let's get into it. What is on your mind? Have you heard the latest? So the big news overnight, of course, was the appointment of Amy Coney Barrett, now a conservative supermajority on the Supreme Court. What will the Democrats do about it? Well, right now, they can't do a damn thing about it. Last night, they had like an all-night talk session, and I saw some of the clips from some of the senators. They were verbally scolding. You don't know what you've done. Oh boy. Oh boy. Wait till we get in power, right? But again, who's to say that's going to ever happen? These are political gangster times we live in. Winner takes all. And that's the way it goes. No tears, no crying. It is what it is. We in charge. We do what we want to do. What I would say again is how I feel about personal relationships and people in general. There's a lot of things that you can do. Doesn't mean that you should do it. It is what it is. If you're a Democrat or you're more of a progressive or a liberal and you care about these kind of things in terms of the makeup of the courts, what do you think should be the next move? And what exactly does this mean for black families? Well, what this means for black families is in the short term, you could see a serious challenge to the ACA, aka Obamacare. And there are plenty of black families that are benefiting from some of the tenets of that particular, piece of legislation under the Obama administration. In the medium to long term, you could see some very serious challenges to civil rights initiatives, whether it be your voting rights or civil rights in other areas that could come under fire. You could see that. Most certainly. You certainly could. For black creators, we don't know if it's going to happen that way, but there could be a serious challenge about your internet freedoms, aka, as I've said before, your access to the internet. You know what I'm talking about. For women, black or whatever, I don't know how credible these charges are, that there could be a serious attack on Roe v. Wade. On some levels, it seems like a long shot. On others, it doesn't. You could see a serious challenge for that. I think in general what it means, and this is something that you can take to the bank, we don't have a what if about this, is that as we see the electorate all over the country becoming more diverse, well, the judicial system has become more conservative. On the federal, at least the federal level, on the federal side of it. Trump, 217 federal appointments, 3 Supreme Court justice appointments. His legacy is going to be on the federal court level long after he's gone, long after he's gone in terms of being on the national stage as an elected official. Long after that, we're going to be talking about Trump judges. Oh, this judge was appointed by Trump. Landmark case. A decision that nobody could conceive, breaks legal precedents. We'll have to wait and see what that all means. Will this spur some interest moving forward in voters in terms of like how they feel about the Supreme Court? Well, we got a call from Black Russia. He said he read an article in which they were talking with black voters, and they said that the reason why they're voting next week is because of the Supreme Court's in the courts right now. And he seemed to think that was a little bit, short-sighted. Well, maybe these are the same voters that voted in 2016, but they also voted with the Supreme Court in mind. We can't assume that these aren't the same people that voted in 2016. Perhaps they are. And you also have to keep the courts in mind as you're voting next week as well. This ain't over. As we've learned, people die. People die. Sometimes unexpectedly. You don't know what the next 2 to 3 to 4 years could mean. For all we know, there could be another vacancy on the court later this year. We don't know. For all we know, that could happen. You don't wish anything like that happening, obviously, but those kind of things can happen. So to me, each and every time you're voting for a chief executive as the president, you should be thinking about the courts. You should be thinking about the broader issues, but you should be thinking about the courts as well, the Supreme Courts and all the federal court judges. And think about this. We knew this back in 2016. We knew that Mitch McConnell was going to employ and use this tactic of holding open these federal judges. We knew he was going to do this back in 2016 because he was already doing it. And yet you still have people that didn't vote or they wrote in Zorro, like our good brother John from Florida. He cares so much about the system, but he wrote in Zorro. Then he wants to call in and complain about it. Excuse me, but you had an opportunity and you wrote in Zorro. So miss me with all the tears now. Hey, Crystal writes, good morning. Hey, good to see you. Janice writes, of course, Joe Dieters is covering their backs. Purely political. It just underscores to me, like when I hear that the business community is like going 100% hard for like the Republican candidates on the county level, it just underscores why we need more black wealth building efforts. So we need black businesses in Hamilton County to rise to the level as these non-black businesses in terms of what they're able to offer. I mean, it's a critical year. It's a critical year, man. It's a critical year. If ever the stars were aligning for there to be a general shift in Hamilton County, it's right now. When will there ever be a better position for the Democrats in terms of trying to take over some of these county seats? You got Trump at the top of the ticket, driving people to the polls for one reason or another, to vote for him or to vote him out. We'll see. We'll see. But all I know is no tears after the election. Whatever it is whatever it is. Alicia writes, there should be term limits for SCOTUS. Seats should be filled at random by a pool of all federal judges. Could be. Could be. Let me see. Turning down volume until drip is gone. Y'all wrong. Y'all wrong, man. Y'all wrong. Did you see the rally in South Carolina for Jamie Harrison? Yeah, Jamie Harrison is the brother that is going up against Lindsey Graham, and I think he's doing a hell of a job. I saw the entirety of one of their debates, and dude has energy, and Lindsey Graham didn't have a whole lot to say. Lindsey Graham is desperate. He went on Fox and Friend begging for people to send him money. I need your help. Oh, this black man's going to destroy South Carolina. I mean, literally. You talk about desperate. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, the Republicans might have South Carolina in the bag for Lindsey. We'll have to wait and see. Jamie Harrison's talking about building a new South. Tony writes, why are you giving this fool a voice? I give everybody a voice. Hey, Kendall, what's going on? He writes, what's up? He's spreading lies. Yeah, we need to hear all of that. It's very, very important. Good morning to you. Let's see. What's up, Dion? He writes facts. Good to see you. Dante writes, Nathan, you should debate Tommy Sotomayor. I know who the brother is. He does a very popular YouTube channel. He loves to talk about what? He loves to talk down on black people. I think Tariq Nasheed was running game at him a little bit. He called him crispy. He had like a little crispy doll. It was hilarious. It was wrong, but it was hilarious. David writes, some people should stay in their lane. Hashtag KRS1. Oh boy. Oh boy. They don't read books on history, which is why they sound stupid. KRS1 seriously needs to rewind his song, You Must Learn. Hey, son, see you later. Have a good day. I like it. Yes. It's my son right there. You already know. Harry Belafonte and Dick Gregory never undermined the civil rights movement as entertainers. But Cube, KRS-One, and 50 Cent can't do it all the time. They don't understand history of the civil rights and strategy. Well, I don't think that we should lump all those three brothers into the same bag. Like, I don't look at 50 Cent as the same way I look at Ice Cube. And KRS-One he just made these statements most recently, so I don't really have a whole lot of information. But Cube and 50 Cent is on two different levels. You know, I don't know if Cube is like on some underground tip for Trump. I don't have any evidence of that. I'll take the man for his word. I think he wanted to do something, came up with an agenda, and he's using his celebrity platform to try to push it forward. And whenever you're new to something, you're going to make some missteps. It comes with the territory. But 50 Cent is 100% about making money about 50 Cent. You know what I'm saying? I see that's different. That's just me, though. There's a gap in the changing of the guard across the generations. I wonder how many times Dick Gregory and Ice Cube chopped it up. Maurice writes, first of all, my people need to stop calling themselves black because we have color. Some of us, are not absent of light. Whoa. You're talking about KRS-One. Look at our birth certificates. We have been colored, Negro, black, and now African American. Who are giving us these names? Y'all still believe in these lying politicians. Have things gotten better for us? ? We are still having these so-called rights violated. We are still going to prison illegally. They are killing us on the streets and getting away with it. The reason we are going through this is because we are disobedient to the Most High. We are still celebrating these pagan holidays and keeping these pagan rituals. In fact, I am going to stop calling people my people. If you don't follow Yah and his commandments, you are not my people. keep following the beast and his system. Damn, who said that? Was that Maurice? Damn, Maurice, you went super hard and deep with us, but at the same time, brother, what I would say is, at a time like this, the black family doesn't need to be dividing ourselves, whether it be for political reasons or class or religious beliefs. I think at the end of the day, melanated people in this country have a lot more in common than we do not. So let's not look for ways to divide ourselves. Let's search the ways in which we can align. Like I said, I'll say this again. If I'm working on a particular issue for a direction and I think it's good for the black family or families in general, I don't care what your religious background is. I don't care what your race is. If we on point on this issue, we on point on this issue. Now, does that mean we agree on everything? No. But I think that the effort should be put into trying to align where possible. So I hear you, Maurice, but where does that leave us? I mean, here we are in critical times, and you don't want to call my people because we don't believe, some might not believe in Yah. Again, ultimately, that's your decision, Maurice, but I would just say we need more united. We need more unity at this time than division. Let's overlook these petty differences. Yeah. These small little differences don't matter. Let's keep our eyes on who the real enemy is. And it's not us. Ice Cube is not the enemy. 50 Cent is not the enemy. KRS-One is not the enemy. The real enemy are the people out there that would like to try to oppose and stand in opposition of your efforts to live your most melanated American dreams. Those are the real folks out there that would use policies, use the laws, use the power we give them as taxpayers to harm us, to threaten our business, to destroy our businesses, to retard our growth. That's the real enemy. You know what I'm saying? It's not Ice Cube. I mean, it's interesting conversation. Again, I say about what I said. I think the brother allowed himself to be exploited. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, I think his heart's in the right way. And I think it'll come together. Hopefully he'll start working with these groups. These groups start working with him. And, you know, there it is. The Dems should have gone hard on Donna Khan like the Lincoln Project. The Lincoln Project is doing excellent work. And the Lincoln Project has brought up things that I thought that the Democrats should be running with. The Democrats should have looked at the Lincoln Project and been like, that's a great point. They're doing great work. They are roasting Donald Trump. Roasting him. It cracks me up that non-black folks think they know what's best for us. Ain't it funny? It's hilarious. Sean writes, blessings, family. Hey, good to see you, Sean. Appreciate you. Hey, listen, I do this every week. I usually do it on a Monday, but today, I didn't do it yesterday. I just want to shout out my patrons. I said I would do this at least once a week. Really, I said once a month, but I want to increase the frequency just to say thank you so much. Check that Patreon feed. Check that Patreon feed for updates. There are updates, and I want you to make sure you don't miss them. I just uploaded a new video to give you some insights as to what's going on. Appreciate you. Want to thank Jesse, Sean, Brian. Those are all Marcia, all new patrons. Appreciate you, Jared. Been down for a moment. I appreciate you, Jared. Mason, Valisa, Black Russia, Mike Davis, Omar, Kelly, Gerald, Brandon, Bobby, Monique, James, Michelle, Charles, Kush, Tanika, Frankie, Pamela, and Rhonda. Really appreciate you with some really special shout outs, man. I really got to shout my people out here. Rhonda, really shout you out. Pamela, Frankie, Tanika, Kush, most deaf, man. Special shout to Kush, Michelle, Charles, James, Monique, Bobby, Omar, really want to shout you out, man. I really appreciate everybody. Okay. Really appreciate your support. If you want to become a patron, go to patreon.com/Nathan Ivy Show and join the mission and get access to exclusives. Really simple. Let me see. Cleopatra writes, the people's minds are not ready for this. Listen how they are arguing over which evil should be covering us. You meant to say governing us. Okay. You know, I thought Cleopatra, I'm not sure. I thought that, let me see. Joe D, the best drunk ever. That's hilarious. Dion writes, it means Jim Crow laws being overturned. Mike Will 729 is on YouTube. He writes, good morning. Good to see you, Mike Will. Good to see you, man. Brent writes, good morning, Nate and the Choppers, checking in from Dallas, Texas. Good to see you. Cleopatra Jones writes, KRS-One and Tariq run in the same circles. Do they? But see, Tariq Nasheed has evolved his position on voting, I believe. Because at first, he was one of these smart, dumb cats. Intelligent as hell, run around talking about your vote don't matter and telling people not to vote and all this kind of stuff. But now with FBA, now he's gotten to the Black Agenda policy game. And he's organizing Black people, foundational Black Americans, FBA, around Black agendas so we can, get our interests first. I love it. I'm glad to see the brother evolve. Because it made no damn sense. You want us to watch your movies, because that's important, but we're not supposed to vote in these elections? That don't make no sense, Tariq. That don't make no sense, man. Tony writes, one thing I feel we need to do is focus on censorship in our communities. I agree with you. 100%. 100% I agree with you, with no doubt. Let me jump inside the chop shop. Ashley writes, good morning, Nathan and the Choppers. Clue Magic writes, grand rising, Nate and the Choppers. Fox writes, rise and shine, young stars. Pat writes, good morning. Tracy writes, hi. Sharp writes, good morning, Nate and the Choppers. Ray writes, grand risings all. Brandy writes, good morning. Hey, good to see you, Brandy. Brother Mazone writes, good morning, Choppers. Froderick Douglas writes, if we'd only protect Black children, the Obama daughter would have realized that ain't kosher to rap city girls on video. Please let Black women know it ain't cool to be a hoe. Explain to Bronny Keynes that smoking weed on IG ain't the move. Tell the Black children it's okay to build a dynamic family name. Ford, Toyota, Rockefeller, Obama, or Jamaica. Tell the Black children preserving the legacy of their last name is even cooler. Yeah, I did see the video of the Obama daughter rapping the City Girls. I saw it on World Star. I didn't really think much of it. I mean, it'd be better if she was rapping the KRS-One. She that's the music of her generation. That's the music of her generation. If she want to, people go online and they rap to their favorite song. It is what it is. The people want the Obama girls to be more than human. They're human. What is she, like a teenager or something like that? She's a teenager. It was no big deal. I didn't even click on it. I didn't even click. I didn't think nothing of it. But I'm not surprised to see that people trying to make it into a big deal. Like somehow she's bringing down her family name and all this kind of stuff. I mean, come on, man. They like the city girls. Just like we used to like Too Short. It is what it is, man. Don't make a mountain out of a molehill, Froderick Douglas. That's fraudulent. Brian writes, morning. Bronny James smoking weed. I mean, it's not smart. Obviously not going to recommend it, but he's a teenager. Their brains ain't even developed yet. And they're living in the age of digital media, social media. So they're going to do things that their parents don't like. Is it a big deal? No, it's not a big deal. Trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. No big deal there. Miss D writes, greetings. Brenda writes, happy Tuesday. Majestic is back. He writes, good morning, folks. Good to see you. Brother Mazzone writes, there are bungle players throwing shade at a fellow player, Carlos Dunlaps, and these local sports talk show hosts are instigating it, and it is so disgusting. This is why the bungles will always be ishy. Yeah, somebody said that. Really, they're instigating it? Because what else are they going to do? Most of the sports talk show hosts in this city are white males. They're white males. And they probably work for radio stations that broadcast the Bengals. So they have a vested financial interest in always promoting the Bengals no matter what. No matter what happens, it's their job to get your ass to listen to the game, to watch the game, to care about the game. And once the move was made to get rid of Marvin Lewis, they all jumped in bed together on this new era, right? Like I said, I don't see any difference. In fact, it looks worse to me. The Bengals look worse to me under the new coach than they did under the former coach, Marvin Lewis. They look worse to me. I don't see anything better. They look worse. So I haven't heard any of it because I don't really listen to a lot of other sports talk radio in the city. I mean, I catch it from time to time, but I haven't heard it. Jared writes, good morning, hashtag Team and I. Good morning to you. Brother Mazone writes, Tyler Boyd is a disgusting clown. What did he say? Is he going hard at that brother? Don't criticize our coach. That's our coach. Oh, my God. Had this happened under Marvin Lewis, these same folks that's caping for the Bengals and caping for the coach, they'd be using that to criticize Marvin Lewis. See, that's just another example that he's lost the locker room. He lost the locker room because they don't respect him. We need somebody in here they can respect. Well, the man won a Super Bowl as the defensive coordinator. How can you not respect that? Carlos Dunlap tweeted, 6,000 square foot city view with huge balcony, 4-bedroom, 4.5 baths, and one of the best school districts for sale. Do your market analysis and make me an offer. Serious inquiries only with proof of funds. Owner is willing to sell furnished or unfurnished. That's what he put it on Twitter. That's Carlos Dunlap. Like, he out of here. I don't want to be here no more, and I don't blame him. Deshauna writes, good morning. I'm so late. Yes, and the Bungles suck. Good morning to you. Different name, same old. Alicia writes, Mahalia is 21, not a 10. Oh, okay, I didn't know she was that old. She's 21. Well, even more of an issue that doesn't matter. Now she's grown. She's grown. She's 21 years old. She want to rap the city girls, and she want to get her OnlyFans. That's her business. That's between her and her. Is that a reflection on her family? No. Shouldn't even live there no more. At 21, she's probably living on her own. So how's that reflected on the Obamas? It's not. Woody writes, we have all done stupid things to the teen. Yes, we have. Every last teenager does something dumb. Good morning, Nate and Choppers. That's Tanika. He was throwing shade at Carlos Dunlap in an interview on the local sports talk show. The host kept asking him about Carlos Dunlap and how he felt about his so-called antics. Instead of just saying no comment, he fell for the bait with his dumb ass. Oh, really? Yeah, I mean, if you're a talk show host and you're gonna get you a bingo on to talk about it, yeah, you're gonna try to bait him into the drama. Sounds like it worked. Let's go to the phones. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Listen, I'm gonna be brief because I know you're awaiting your guest, but you're dead wrong about the Obama daughter. When have you ever heard one of the Ford children acting ass in public or doing anything unsavory, anything close to questionable? Have you?
Have I what?
Heard anything about the Ford children?
The Ford children? Is that the
Ford descendants? Yes, the car company, the Ford, and it is a real family name.
Yeah, I mean,
Protect
not offhand.
your family's name.
No, not offhand, but I mean, if you really wanted to do some research on the topic, I'm sure we could find the children of a lot of rich and famous families that's been doing some dumb stuff on Instagram, on social media. What about the Hilton family, the Hilton hotels? They did all kind of salacious stuff. I mean,
she did a sex tape.
Yeah,
very unsavory. And very unsavory. But we're talking about black children. We're not talking about white children.
Then why did you bring up the Ford family?
And protecting your family.
Then why did you bring up the Ford? If we talking about black
many
children,
black families with the last name.
Don't dodge this heat. Don't dodge the heat. If we talking about black families, why did you bring up the Ford family? They're not black.
No, because I was bringing up the last name issue.
Okay, but they're not black.
What I was bringing. Ford, Toyota, Rockefeller, Rothstein.
And you're wrong about something else.
Things like that.
Let me correct you on something else. You said, when have you ever seen the Ford children do anything unsavory, right? This Obama daughter is not a child. She's 21 years old.
The descendants. I was speaking in general terms.
Descendants, okay.
Way to be, but since you want to parse the argument so thoroughly, I appreciate that. That's you and your candor as a host. That's what makes you great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Nathan Ivey.
Appreciate that. But I think, but go ahead and finish your flow. You said I was wrong and this is unsavory what the Obama girl did. Let me see if I put the video up on the screen while we're talking.
Questionable behavior. The whole culture that's out there right now for the young black women to be a part of, it's a problem. It is pure whore culture. It's not women empowering. It's not, no, it's whore culture. Every song about some sexual act that you're particularly really good at. Your name's Obama. There's probably not a more significant black last name in America. The last thing you need to be doing is rapping trashy songs like that. You ain't got to be on TV playing Beethoven, but don't do that. Protect your, like Cedric the Entertainer made a joke about that. Can you imagine being Barack Obama Jr.? You can't walk in Walgreens in the middle of the night on the back of your shoes. I felt that. It was a joke, but what he was saying is you got to preserve a last name. Rapping City Girls is not adding anything to your legacy. It's taken away from it whether you like it or not, even though it's just you allowed, you're a 21-year-old woman, you can rap about what you want to rap about. Not when your dad was the first black president. You owe him you owe him the gravitas that goes with that name, the dignity to preserve his legacy, whether we like Obama or not. How many black last names can you name that has a history like I said, Ford, Toyota,
that's irrelevant.
Rockefeller?
That's irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
It's not.
It's irrelevant. You want me to tell you why?
I'm listening.
The reason why it's irrelevant
is
because ultimately everything you're talking about don't mean nothing. So it's all irrelevant.
It don't?
It don't, no.
Your last name means nothing to you?
It's not about my last name. If you're trying to argue that this grown woman at 21 years old rapping City Girls in a 30-second clip that went on Twitter is somehow damaging the legacy of Obama, I think it's foolish and crazy. I think it's preposterous.
No. Don't be so dramatic. But it chips away at it.
It don't chip away at her. It
erodes it with the persistence of water. Every little thing. You already got caught doing drugs on tape and being flushed.
No.
This is that one, right?
No, I just disagree with you.
Am I right or wrong?
I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill.
Who was flushed on tape.
I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill. I mean, I hear your argument. I hear your argument. I can tell you have a lot of passion about it. You really care about the legacy of Obama.
No, you don't hear the argument because you're trying to defend some
No, I'm
silliness.
not trying to defend. I'm just trying to put things in its proper context. To me, this is a mountain out of a molehill. This amounts to nothing. You're talking about a grown woman. A grown woman rapping 30 seconds of a rap song on social media. So what? It means nothing.
You remember the famous Breakfast Club interview with Dame Dash where he was talking about, can you hire your son?
Yeah.
Everybody got on Dame Dash about that, blah, 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 blah. He was exactly right. I can tell you where he got that flow from. A book called Dynasties, where it mentions, it's called Dynasties, and I think the subtitle is the trials and tribulations of, the world's most famous last names or something like that. It was talking about people with a, last name legacy. Obama's just starting his by becoming the first black president. You owe it as his eldest seed to behave accordingly. Not being caught on tape, drunk and high, not rapping trashy lyrics. You owe that to your dad. Maybe you don't get the concept of preserving a last name. But when I read that book, I said, I get that what Dame Dash is talking about. He was probably referring to the chapter where the Ford family wouldn't hire Lee Iacocca. It was like, no, we hire him. Next thing you know, He'll put up signs saying, I a Coca motor company. Keep it in the family. I felt that. And that's what black folks need to do. Start protecting your last name. Maybe you don't grasp that concept. Maybe if you read that book, you would. I'm not insulting you. I'm just saying. If you read that book, maybe you'll understand it. Understand where I'm coming from.
Well, I didn't read the book, and I do remember that clip, and I understood where Dame Dash was coming from in that interview. I could feel him. I got the point he was trying to make. He was asking the question of, it wasn't Charlemagne, it was the other brother, DJ Envy. He was challenging DJ Envy and what he could get done, as opposed to owning his own thing and working for iHeartMedia. So I get it. I understood all of that.
And who was made to be, and throughout social media circles, who was made to be the jerk off? Dame or the other brother?
It depends on the perception of it. I just told you mine. But again, I go back to what I said,
No.
I mean,
what was the majority opinion on social media?
I can't tell you what the majority opinion was, man. All I can tell you is how I looked at it. I mean, I saw it on both sides. There was some people that thought there was some people that thought that I read that thought he went too far, and other people that agree with him. So that's, Dame Dash is a very polarizing figure, man.
That was more of a ball sweep.
Dame Dash is a very polarizing figure. True or not?
Oh, he's very polarizing.
Okay, then. So that means there's people that rock with him and what he has to say, and there's people that don't rock with him and what he has to say. So that was my perception of it back then. But back to what I said, man, I hear you. I hear a lot of passion. You care a lot, but nothing there really for me. This is a nothing burger. That's just my personal opinion.
To you.
Yeah, to me.
Maybe to you.
Right, to me.
Maybe to you. But I could go. I'm not finna go in somewhere else because it'll just, never mind. Don't worry about it. Hey, brother, I can't wait to hear, when is Black coming on? Here in a half hour?
Let me double check, actually. Sure.
I can't wait for the interview. Whoever was the chopper that hooked it up or helped hook it up, kudos to you. I'll holler at you, B.
Appreciate that. Okay, let me send him a message right now. Yeah, I see he sent me a text message or an email here. Hey, Robin, hey, thanks for becoming a patron today. I appreciate it. Appreciate that. Robin just became a patron this morning. Appreciate it. Join our mission. I appreciate it. My goal is to get 100 patrons. Of course, I do have certain monetary goals to, take care of the basics and then some as we build out CDM and platforms for Black voices and marginalized voices. But I'm really into the concept of crowdfunding. Like I'm into that. Yeah, so hopefully we can get Andy Black to give us a call here because I'd love to get him on the show and talk to him about numerous things. Of course, the election is next week. And we did have Alicia Reese on, and a couple times we had her on for the primary, and then maybe about a month ago she called in. It was right after the NAACP forum. But I also want to get Mr. Herman Najoli on as well. So I'll reach out to get him on the show. I think all the candidates are legitimate. I know that brother is like making his own signs and hasn't raised a whole lot of money, like $2,000, but I love the spirit. I love the spirit. I love his spirit. I love the spirit that you don't have to have to be like some established political person or have either of the two parties behind you. I love the idea of independent candidates. I love the idea of it. Very much so. But what do you think? So hopefully we get a call here from Mr. Andy Black and we'll have that conversation here before we roll out this morning. 513-873-7134. That's fame, making a big deal out of nothing. But I appreciate it. I mean, you could tell the brother really cares about the Obama legacy. But when I saw the video, man, I was like, this is a nothing burger. So what? She's 21 years old. I thought she was a teenager. She's 21 years old. She's rapping to City Girls. She might identify City Girls as being 21 years old. That's what she wants to do. Go right ahead. It's not like she did a Kim Kardashian and put out a sex tape. She didn't pull a Paris Hilton and put out a sex tape. And then this argument you're trying to make, which was all over the place, like white families don't do that, is absolutely false. While I can't say anything about the Ford family in particular, I mean, it seems like once a month we see some socialite or some super rich daughter or somebody doing something crazy and scandalous on social media. Happens all the time. Do the Obama girls have to wash themselves? Of course they do. We know that. They can't do some of the things that other folks can do because it will go back to them. But this whole thing with rapping the City Girls, that's tame. Now, if you said she was twerking with a thong on to city girls, that's different. But she's just rapping to city girls, having some fun with one of her girlfriends. Let them young ladies be free. Let me be free. Let us free. It's like the damn Amistad for the Obama children. Let them be free. They want to dance around the city girls. They ain't hurt nobody. They weren't doing anything illegal. They're not twerking. You can't see no body parts. That's nothing for social media. You can go on Instagram right now and see all kind of just much more flesh. You can see anything you want to see on Instagram right now. I mean, like right now. Anything you want to see on Instagram, you can see. But I'm supposed to get upset about the city girl. They was rapping the city girls. That's nothing. That's nothing, man. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. You know what I'm saying? I mean, talking about legacy. I mean, Baby Bush was a drunk. Admitted it. Had a drinking problem. He became president. Talking about, I mean, all that legacy schmegacy stuff. Trump's talking about grabbing you by the ussy, telling lies every other minute. Ain't hurting his legacy. But the Obama girls, because black people are held to some impossible standard, they can't rap the city girls. Come on, man. I got the clip right here. Leave that young girl alone. She's 21. She's living her best life. She's an Obama. Everywhere she goes, she probably got Secret Service everywhere she goes. She's probably dying to get out and just be free and not live under the constraints of everybody's glare. Let that woman be. But I'm glad that you're concerned about her legacy. We should be concerned about legacy on some levels. I'm okay with that. Got no problem with it. I tell my children, when you out here representing yourself, you represent your mother and your father as well. You representing all your church. You representing everybody. So watch yourself. As if black folks don't do that. Cruther writes, the young ladies are fully clothed and simply singing a song. What's the problem? The problem is Fame got a low problem with black women. I mean, it is what it is. It's been well documented. We don't like to talk about it too much, but he's got a long-stated problem with black females, and it manifests himself in weird ways from time to time. That's the real problem. Those of us who know Fame, we've had a longer relationship with him, we understand this. This show is like a daily catharsis for me and for the world, and sometimes the listeners. It's come out before. So that's what it really is, Cruther. I mean, you probably know this. You've been around for a minute. You know this. Fame's got a problem with black women, and it manifests itself in crazy ways sometimes in terms of his flows. But I love it. So keep it coming. We can always agree to disagree. Sean writes, Fame, you are being a bit dramatic. Somebody writes, throw the Hearst name in there too. Patty Hearst, 1974. Oh, man. Fame was dropped on Head Part 2. Y'all wrong. Is there a doctor in the house? See, y'all wrong. Y'all wrong. What is this clown talking about? I mean, he was living his best life. Fame parents must have kept him in the closet, see? Rachel writes, and here is the therapy session. So we're going to start therapy now. Hey, Fame, listen, you walked into it, man. It is what it is. Let me go to the phones here and say good morning. Hey, good morning and welcome to the show. Hello, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Is this Andy Black?
This is he.
What's going on, Andy Black? Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no.
Sorry, we had a little miscommunication there.
Yeah. I think it was probably more on my end. I want to make sure you had that number so you could call in. But again, I appreciate you making time here this morning. Let me make sure I get you on the line here so people know who you are. And This is our first time talking. Now, I didn't get a chance to talk with you, but if you go back to the NAACP's virtual forum that was hosted by Lincoln Ware, I was the man behind the boards, making sure the cameras are working and all that kind of stuff. So I got a chance. I had a bird's eye view of that conversation between the three candidates. Was that the only time that the three candidates for Hamilton County Commission have been together in one forum?
That's it. Unfortunately, we've had 4 or 5 other opportunities, but Ms. Reese decided she didn't want to debate or do any additional forums or debates. So that was the only time. We had one scheduled for yesterday on WLWT, which will air tonight at 7:30 p.m. and she declined that as well. So, it's disappointing. I wish we could have had more opportunities because, this is those type of opportunities, whether it's a forum or a debate, are important for the voters to understand, because nobody's in this seat currently that's running for this office. And if I'm a voter, I'd say, wait, who's in this seat, or who's running for this seat, or give me something about who you are before I go in and punch that voting ticket. So yeah, that was it, man.
Yeah, I mean, as a voter, I mean, I want more conversation, not less. I want as many opportunities in different environments before different audiences as possible, so I can get a sense of who these people are before I make my decision. Have you already voted? Have you voted early, Andy?
No, I'm going to wait till election day. I'm one of those guys who likes to go through the pomp and circumstance of it. So now I'm going to vote on election day at my polling location, and of course do what all the candidates do, which is run around to about 19 different polling locations and hand out literature and do that song and dance. But we've got a bunch of volunteers who are going to help me out. But yeah, it's going to be actually on election day. Have you voted?
I have not. I'm going to vote early, though. I'm not going to wait till election day because I want to be out doing media stuff and getting interviews that kind of thing. So
how you feeling about it?
About what? Voting? Oh, I'm looking forward to
election. Yeah, the vote itself. I mean, you feel like it's going to, I mean, there's all this rumors and speculation about what is actually going to transpire behind the scenes or with postal workers. And then obviously the outcome of the federal election, obviously people are looking at, but
yeah,
I don't know. You're probably paying closer attention, honestly, than I am, because I'm focused on my race and what's going on in the county than what's at the national or even the state level.
Well, you know, as a mad political scientist, I'm curious on what the outcome will be. You know, we've been looking at all of the news and what the polls say. I tell my audience, don't look at any of the polls. The only poll that matters, the only numbers that matter are the final results. Everything else is just prognostication and what people think and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, for me personally, I don't really get into that. I'm looking at what's going to happen and just sort of analyzing people's reactions. But again, you know, in the interest of time, let's just jump into it. I mean,
sure.
Let's talk about you. Let's talk about why. Tell us about who you are a bit, and then why you decided to run for Hamilton County Commissioner.
Yeah, so I grew up on a split side of the county here. I was born on the west side in Delhi, and I grew up in Marymount. I went to the Marymount Public School Systems and graduated from there and went on to Miami University up there in Oxford, and then I graduated from Bellum University in Louisville with an MBA. So that's my educational background. You know, my family's been here since the late 1800s. My grandfather started a company that's still here, the Ray Hamilton Moving Company, back in 1892. So we have deep roots here in the community, run businesses, own businesses. My wife is running a family business now herself. So, you know, we've been invested in this community. I felt like this is a time to whom much is given, much is expected, right? So I was hoping to use this opportunity to give back. What really prompted it was when I looked around at what was happening at City Hall and looking at the county commissioner makeup. You know, when you've got single party control, and I don't care if it's Republican, all Republican control or Democrat control, when you got one part control, I think you don't have the best ideas are necessarily going to come to the forefront. So that's why I decided to leap in. I don't have a deep resume of politics. I served as vice mayor of the community I grew up in Marymount. I recognize that doesn't have the same draw or appeal that some of the previous candidates or current candidates even have, but you know, what I'm really running on, Nathan, is that the idea that we need somebody that's not a politician in there, because these are some serious problems coming down the pike for the county. And I think that with all the political grandstanding of what's going on back and forth, not a lot's going to get done. We've got a deficit we're going to be facing because of COVID-19. We had one even before COVID-19. And when I look around and I think, okay, how do we serve all 800,000 residents? I think this takes somebody with a business mindset that's not looking at the next office. It's not worried about re-election. We're looking about getting the job done. So that's really my message to the voters. Obviously, I've got a much broader message in terms of how to get that done. But you know, I've been going around listening to anybody who will talk to me. I've showed up to every single forum or debate that's been offered. Most of them, unfortunately, have been canceled because Ms. Reese declined to show up. But you know, for example, like today, we're talking, and I look forward to hearing new ideas. And it's been a very interesting process from that perspective. That, you know, I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I grew up on the east side in kind of a conservative little bubble, and I'm not going to shy away from that. But I've taken, you know, the most advantage of this opportunity to go out and talk to different folks that I necessarily haven't crossed paths with before. So, long answer to a short question, but that's kind of who I am. That's why I'm running.
So you grew up in a bubble. Are you still in a bubble?
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel like, you know, through your life experience as an adult, that it's been diverse, that you've been able to, through your business or your personal adult life, to really interact with non-white people? And I said it because, I mean, the core of my audience is African Americans. Mm-hmm. Most of my folks live in Cincinnati, Hamilton County, Ohio, and then, of course, across the country. So the focus of this show has been on the Black community and you know, the politics and the people and everything that might interact with it. So that's what's inspiring that type of question. Do you feel like you're still in a bubble?
I get it. Yeah, I get it. No, I think that, you know, anytime, look, I live in Indian Hill, right? I'm not going to suggest that I have some kind of a huge diverse background or diverse network. That's what I was saying earlier, is that I recognize that, I acknowledge that up front. And I've been trying to get out and meet with folks from the African American community, from the Hispanic community, from other communities to say, look, you know, I've got big ideas, but I'm open to all options, whether it's Republican, Democrat, Black, white, whatever it is. You know, in my business interactions, of course, I interact with folks in the African American community. Of course, I played football in college, and I've been in sports all my life. I've had friendships that have been, you know, deep, long-lasting friendships with members of the African American community. So it's not as if I've been in that tight of a bubble, but to sit here and tell you that I've been in the mix with, a number of relationships in terms of business, that would just be a misstatement. So I get it up front. I know it's probably a tough pill to swallow for maybe your listeners or for members of the African American community, but I'm just asking that they give me the opportunity and consider the options that are out there, and don't just vote for the name ID that you see, because at the end of the day, yeah, this person may have been in politics for 20 years, but what has she done for the African American community besides serve in office? I mean, what has she done to help with, you know, the mental health issues that I believe are going on, not just in the African American community, but all communities? And that's something that I take personally. I see it in my own family. I've seen it in friends' families, that, you know, you've got to address those issues up front, or they're just going to perpetuate, you know, the issues that we continue to see in our society across all spectrums. But, you know, when I look at the African American community, I really do think that there's an opportunity to work across the aisle, to work with the African American Chamber of Commerce, to work with the state, to find grants, to find ways to bring more dollars back into the Black community. Because right now, as I think I heard a stat long ago, that the dollar in the African American or the Black community turns over 1 time, versus in the communities where, say, I live, it turns over 16 times. So that's just, I mean, that is so grossly out of proportion. And there's not a single bullet that as a commissioner I can say, guys, I'm going to do this for you today and tomorrow and the next day. But I'm open to the ideas, and I'm open to the ideas of listening to folks with the experience who've run businesses in the Black communities as to how do we improve the conditions? What do we do to make sure that young entrepreneurs are given a chance and they don't feel like the wall is so high they're never going to get over it? So that's what I'll tell you. I mean, that's the only promise I'll make you. I'm not going to sit here and play the political role or give you the Trump platinum plan to offer, you know, $500 million or whatever he's offering. But I will just commit to the fact that I'm not going to be opposed to any ideas, and my goal is to make sure that 800,000+ residents are represented on the County Board of Commissioners.
Speaking of Andy Black, he's a candidate for Hamilton County Commissioner. I appreciate that, you know, keeping it real.
Yeah.
You know, I want to talk about something that troubled me, and I'll be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I said on this show about you, I know you didn't hear it, probably didn't get back to you, but I said this about you. I said that if Andy Black doesn't come out and distance himself from that mailer, because there was a big controversy around what some are calling an overtly racist subtext or subtle racism in this mailer that went out about Alicia Reese. It had her image. Mm-hmm. And then apparently it was like, she was like, I don't know, moving chessboard pieces or Monopoly board pieces. Mm-hmm. And it had some quotes from a nursery rhyme, Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, which has a history, which has a racist history. You know, whatever the origin is, I mean, I think it's facts that there was a time in our country in which there was some racial anti-Black undertones that were brought to it. So as the way it goes is Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, catch an N-word, catch a nigger by his toe, right? Are you aware of the history of that?
You know, Nathan, I was not aware of that. And that's, you know, I own up to that. I'll say that I did not have any experience with that version of it. I had no idea that even existed. I put my hand in the Bible. I talked to my parents. I've talked anybody and said, did I just completely, I mean, it was not something that I produced, obviously, but it came through our campaign. I own that. But I wasn't aware that was it. I was the version of it. There was no intent, obviously, to offend anybody with that, other than to suggest that, look, when she was in city council, she allocated dollars that were obviously misappropriated, and I think they went to special interests. But, you know, in terms of owning it, yeah, I take responsibility for it. I didn't have any intent of going out there and offending anybody. I think the bigger issue is that my opponent used that as an opportunity to hold a press conference. And instead of turning around and saying, let's debate it, she said, I will not debate him now, and called me dangerous because of one flyer. That just, to me, is that speaks volumes to her campaign. And I can own up to it. And I can tell you, I apologize for what it may have meant to some folks. I never would have done that intentionally. Quite frankly, the folks who put it out, I let them know how disruptive that was to our campaign and disrespectful that was to some. But what's done is done. We've got to look forward, and I just hope to have the opportunity to earn people's respect and trust, and to say, look, I don't have a racist bone in my body. As I said earlier, I've got relationships that go back 20 years, and even when I spoke to my friends from the African American community, they basically told me, yeah, you screwed up on that. You should have probably asked somebody. But it's not as if it was something that was overtly racist to the vast majority of Americans, but it was the Black community. So for that, I'm sorry.
So when did you become aware of the fact that it was a problem? Because I was on your social media, and again, I was on the show before, we got in contact to do this interview. And I told my audience, like, look, maybe he had nothing to do with it initially, but when you find out about it, I mean, I think the community should hold you accountable about what you say publicly. So when did you become aware of the fact that there was racial, undertones in it? And have you put out a public statement, like on social media, saying this is the first time I've heard this. I've been on your social media. I haven't heard any similar statements of you saying, hey, listen, my bad. I understand I was wrong, or we were wrong, and we want to distance ourselves from it.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it on radio. I've said it on television. Okay. I'm not sure if it's honestly, Nathan, in terms of the social media platforms, I turn that over to a third party, and I proof that, but I'm not managing that day to day, not to make an excuse for that. So I don't have anything more I can really say other than that. Yeah, it was a glaring mistake on our campaign's part, but that shouldn't define our campaign, because I do believe that we have ideas that will bring the county forward, and we're not getting caught up in this this name calling or this finger pointing, because that just doesn't advance the conversation for anybody. I mean, we're looking at obviously a transformational year and real moment in history where we can really make a change in what's been going on for the past 60 plus years, or 140 years, if you want to be more accurate. And I don't think that one mailer should define who I am or what I stand for.
I don't think it should define who you are and what you stand for either, Andy, but I'll be honest with you. I had to be straight with you. As a voter,
I want honesty.
Yeah, I'll be straight with you. As a Black voter, as a voter in Hamilton County, when it comes to you, a couple things kind of stick out to me that's a problem. One, and you talked about it earlier, this bubble that you grew up in, that you've been in, and how that would manifest itself if you're in a leadership position where you're supposed to represent people like me. And I can look at this situation with this eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And as you admitted, you're in your bubble, you're oblivious to it. And it makes me wonder, what else would you be oblivious to that concerns me and my family in particular, right? If you become Hamilton County Commissioner. Like, that's how I look at it. You think that's fair?
Okay. Well, I mean, that's fair. I mean, that's your opinion. All I can tell you is that, what I would attempt to do is to try to surround myself with more folks who have experiences like you're describing. I've tried to do that throughout the campaign, even up to and before this mailer went out. Obviously, it's going to be a work in progress. I haven't had a long history of having a staff or a county wide candidacy. So all I can tell you is that it shouldn't define my candidacy. If it's a concern of yours, I have nothing else to say other than the fact that I'll do my best to try to make sure it doesn't happen again. And
I believe that.
And that's all I can say.
I believe
it's not nobody runs a perfect campaign. And my goal here, like I said earlier, is to reach out across the aisle, across the spectrum. And when you say I live in a bubble, yeah, let's be clear about this. I understand Marymount is not, the Black community's backyard by any means. But it wasn't as if I grew up working at a country club and my parents, silver spoon fed me. My folks rode the bus to work. They worked downtown. They worked their tails off to get to where they were in the village of Marymount. And I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm proud of my parents. I'm proud of my background, just as I'm sure you are about your family. But that doesn't mean that I'm not capable of leading or capable of understanding different perspectives. I've had to do that in all my career. It's not as if I go in and just speak to one, section of the American population. It's a matter of having to understand different perspectives, different points of view, and then how do you make the right decision? So that's what I'm trying to bring to the commissioner. And I would expect that along the way there will be bumps in the road, but I'm not going to make any promises other than to say that I'm going to reach out. I'm going to do my best to try to make sure that type of mistake doesn't happen again.
I understand. Speaking of Andy Black, he's the candidate for Hamilton County Commissioner. I understand, but so I want to make sure I understand this timeline. So you're saying that the flyer came across your desk. Did you approve it before it went out?
Yeah.
Okay, so you approved it. And
I approved it.
In terms of your staff, Tell me, do you have a diverse staff working with you right now in terms of your campaign? How diverse is your campaign staff and the people around you right now?
It came out of the Hamilton. It came out of the Ohio Republican Party. All right. So I don't know what their staff makeup is, but yeah, we've got a staff. We've got volunteers. I'd classify them as diverse. We have a team that looked at it, and not one person raised their hand and said, you can't send that out.
You have black folks on the team, and they looked at it and said, you can send it? Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. That's quite interesting.
Whether they, did I put them and sit down and say, read every single piece, but when I send it out and say, will you guys review all these pieces that are going to go out? Mind you, we've had 9 flyers go out. So I expect everybody to look at them, and their feedback is always welcome. So yes, we do have, I consider a pretty diverse group. Again, as I said earlier, I've tried to reach out and bring in folks who don't, as you would say, live in my bubble and have other outside perspectives. But, nobody pointed it out to me. And honestly, even after the fact, I had about a 50-50 response from members of the African-American community. When I said, did you think about this? Yeah, I heard it, but it didn't register when I saw the flyer. Honestly, it didn't show up my radar. But when it was brought out and the whole press conference and the newspaper jumped on it, yeah, okay, I can see that connection now, and you probably shouldn't have sent it. But it wasn't as if it was automatic. I mean, graders ran an ad with it. I mean, I was watching last 2 weeks ago, Michael Strahan used it on Fox NFL Sunday. I mean, it's to me, it's offensive and it shouldn't have been used. But at the same time, I've seen it be used by others, and they have not been labeled like I've been labeled. And I think it's just because of the nature of politics, and I get that. But it's just unfortunate that it's now become an issue that continues to percolate throughout the campaign when there's such broad issues that are affecting the Black community. I mean, we talked about those numbers earlier. We go into the Black community and you talk about the number of homes that are owned by banks, not by homeowners themselves. And there's no Black-owned banks in the greater Cincinnati, the tri-state area. I work with banks and credit unions, and there's none of them. Credit unions are co-op owned, obviously, but there's not a single African-American owned bank in Cincinnati or Hamilton County. What can we do to change that perspective? What can we do to change that and actually make sure that the Black communities are owned by Black homeowners and not by the banks that are predominantly run by, folks with my background who live in the quote unquote bubble. So that's what I'm trying to get out and try to get in front of and try to bring to the, to the broader community.
Speaking with Andy Black, he's the candidate for Hamilton County Commissioner. So let's talk about your big plans. I mean, if you should win next week, what are, in your opinion, the big issues before the Hamilton County Commissioners?
Well, the biggest issue we're going to be facing is how do we respond to COVID-19 in terms of our finances? I mean, let's not forget this role does not have policymaking or lawmaking capabilities. This is strictly a financial management role. It's not sexy. It's not something that a lot of people want to get down in the dirt and talk about, but that's really what the commissioner's role is you're supposed to go to look at across the 7 elected offices. You control the budget for the sheriff's office, the prosecutor's office, the coroner's office, the recorder's office, go on down the list, the auditor's office. We control the budget as the county commissioners for what they can spend. So all the tax dollars, the property dollars that come in, the commissioners sit down with the county administration, the county administrator, and say, how do we allocate these dollars accordingly? I think that with what we've seen transpire at the city level, where they had about an $80 million shortfall in their tax revenues, and they had to go scramble to find money, I think we're going to see that on a larger scale with the county, because the county relies so much on sales tax revenues from restaurants and businesses and small businesses. About 40% of the money comes from those folks, and they were shut down, as you know, March, April, May, part of June. So, how are we going to respond to? It's not a single solution that I can come up with and say we're going to do this, but we're going to have to look seriously at how are we managing our top line revenue, how are we managing our allocation to each department. One of the things I've talked about, Nathan, is going out and looking at how are we set up as a county physically. What buildings do we own? Are they being used properly? Again, not exciting stuff to talk about, but that's the role of the commission, is to go out and manage this like a board of directors would manage, a major corporation or a small business.
And I know you've gotten a lot of headlines in terms of your plans for the Bengals in the Bengals Stadium, should I say, not the Bengals themselves. So as you look at the Bengals Stadium, what is the problem, and then what is your solution? What would you do?
Well, real quickly, I'll give you the high level because I don't want to get into the weeds too much. But the problem is the lease. That lease was signed back in 1998, and it's so incredibly one-sided for the Bengals that the county just gave them everything to keep them from leaving town. So that's the first problem. The second problem is the county forecasted a lot higher percentage of sales tax dollars to come in to support that lease arrangement, which requires the county not only to build it, to operate it, to maintain it, and to enhance it. And the enhancement piece is the part that's the real problem we're going to be facing. The county is obligated to give the Bengals organization as many upgrades as they request, as long as 50% of the other NFL stadiums have it. So let's say the Patriots get a brand new scoreboard or get, luxury boxes, and another 14 other stadiums get that. The Bengals can say to the county, okay, you owe us that on the county's nickel. The point of that, the problem there, Nathan, is that that's going to accumulate to about $250 to $300 million the county doesn't have. So I'm advocating we bring in a third party to help us manage the stadium, to take some of the burden off of the county, invest in the stadium themselves, and in return we can come up with a better shared revenue model so the county is not on the hook for every single dollar. Because right now the county collects very little in terms of revenue from game day operations. For example, they get a quarter. 25 cents, not 25%, 25 cents for every ticket that's sold. So right now the situation is just so upside down that we need to come up with a third option. You can't vote your way out of it, as my opponent is suggesting. There's no vote that's going to solve it. The Bengals simply have to notify the county in June of 2025 if they're going to stay or go. That's it. There's no change in the lease. There's no requirement in the lease that they do anything other than to notify the county. So I'm coming up with a third alternative. It's sell the stadium, but in reality, it's bringing in a third party to help us manage the stadium and actually provide the county with a little bit of relief, so we're not stuck with this albatross around our neck. And it's been tried, by the way, in the past by Democrats like Todd Fortune. It's been tried by commissioners on the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners back in 2008. The difference now being is that the county stadium sits in what's called an economic opportunity zone, and that was part of the 2017 federal legislation that allows for investors to put their money into that stadium tax-free. And what that means, they can take their dollars from, let's say they sell stock in XYZ stock, they can put it invested in that stadium tax-free, which will benefit us as taxpayers, so we're not carrying the burden. So that's a long answer to a short question, but the point I'm trying to make is that we can't just sit back and wait and hope for the best. We can't vote our way out of the situation. We're not going to get the Bengals to succumb to some public media pressure. They just have shown they don't care about that. So I'm trying to get an idea that'll help both the county and the Bengals, and to get the county out of the situation where they're on the hook for every single improvement.
Yeah, and I'm listening. I think that most people live in Hamilton County and know anything about it, and I have been talking about this since they were talking about doing it back in the 90s. Of course, I wasn't on the internet back then. I was in public radio, and even back then, I knew it was a bad deal. It never seemed like a good deal for taxpayers. We should have let the Bengals go, and we would have got another team from the NFL.
That passed it, man. I get it.
Yeah, most
Republican
definitely.
Deal that passed it.
But
I'm all about looking forward. I'm saying, look, we can. And I got to wrap up here. Unfortunately, and I got to jump on another thing here in a second. But I want folks to understand that this, for me, I don't believe this should be even a political, office in terms of Republican or Democrat, because it's about the dollars that you and I put into our property and our sales taxes, and the individuals who manage those dollars, and how are they going to best manage the county going forward for the next 4 years. And that's really, what I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about what party identification or who comes to the table with the idea. Yes, sir.
I know you got real short time, so I just want to get in two quick questions. So one is a follow-up to the conversation about the Bengals. Everything you said sound good, but the Achilles heel in it is that the Bengals have to sign off on any deal. Anything that would happen, the Bengals would have to sign off on. So you can have the best ideas in the world. At the end of the day, it sounds like a negotiation with the Bengals. So it's got to be something that's going to be in their best interest, not just the county. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that's the point I was getting at, is that they don't want to have a Riverfront Stadium do-over where that thing fell into such dilapidated repair that it was imploded after just 32 years. We're almost there with Paul Brown Stadium, if you can believe it or not. And the Bengals don't want to see that happen. They've verbalized that. They put it in writing. They don't want to see another Riverfront Stadium. So this is not an anti-Bengals deal. This
I don't think it is either.
The county wants to help it. The county wants to help keep the stadium first class. We just can't afford to do it. We got $44 million in reserve. And there's going to be a ticket item, a couple items that are going to come up.
I'm with you, Andy.
They're going to be over $200 million.
I'm with you, Andy. But here's the point I brought that up in, is that whether it's you or Reese or Najoli, none of you individually have the power to make anything happen with the Bengals. That's what I'm trying to get at. You can have the best ideas. Reese can have the best ideas. At the end of the day, commissioners are going to have to sit down and negotiate with the Bengals, and the Bengals ultimately will have to sign off on it. That's the point I'm trying to get at. Whether it's you, Najoli, or some other guy or person that becomes the Hamilton County Commissioner. Isn't that correct?
You are correct. It's
okay.
going to take the commissioners with legal backing and with the county administration to say, look, here are the numbers. We've done the homework to show that if they would sit down with the commissioners today, I've met with the county administrators and they're like, yeah, this Those are the numbers. It's fact.
Right.
We don't have the revenue sources to pay for these enhancements that are going to be required. We can't continue to trade away land like we did with the Hilltop deal. We're out
Right.
of options. So,
And one last thing.
This is nothing. Not real quick, Nathan.
Yeah.
Nothing that I'm suggesting is going to be Andy Black by himself. This is a board for a reason. This isn't the mayor. This is going to be Andy working with 2 Democrats in all likelihood. So I recognize that. I get that. I'm not suggesting everything I'm telling you today, everything I said on my campaign, I'm going to just go in and say, we're doing this. It's going to require cooperation across the aisle and the cooperation of the county administration.
And Andy, I want you to clear this up because this came up in the NAACP, and I thought it was, be honest with you, I thought it was a low point on your side during that conversation. But the conversation came up about Hamilton County commissioners declaring racism as a public health crisis, and your answer was essentially that you thought they were wrong to do that because it kind of made it seem like you're saying that everybody's a racist in Hamilton County. Now that was a month ago. And have you got a chance to revisit those thoughts? Do you still feel the same way about that declaration? But what are your current thoughts about that?
No, I mean, and what I also said, Nathan, was that I'm sick and tired of seeing declarations, proclamations, commissions, whatever you want to call it. We need to have something that actually provides results. So I have not changed my position on that. I won't change my position on that. I think that that's just another way to say, in this moment, oh, and by the way, it's been all Democrats in control of the commission for 2 years and City Hall. Why are they waiting till now to do that? It just seems so politically transparent that they were doing it just to say, look, hold up a piece of paper. We've done our jobs. That's my point, is that we need more than that. We need to do what I talked about earlier, which is helping actually move the needle in the Black community to say, how do we bring more ownership? How do we keep the dollars there so they're not taking your money and running to Oakley, Target? Why can't you find a grocery store in the Black community right now to go shop at? What are you going to do to solve those issues besides just declare racism as a health crisis? But that was my point.
I understand, but just to clarify, I understand your point, but I want to clarify to get your understanding behind the point. Do you believe that in 2020 that racism is a public health crisis for Black people in Hamilton County?
Is racism for Black people?
What I mean,
are you asking for the declaration or support it? No, I don't support the declaration.
I'm not saying it's separate. I'm saying, do you believe that in Hamilton County that racism is a public health crisis for the victims of racism? That would be probably Black people, non-white people. Do you believe that is a current issue in Hamilton County?
I believe racism exists. Absolutely, I believe racism exists. I never said it didn't exist in terms of being a quote-unquote health crisis. I would need to see some more data to say, look, this is where we're getting this definition of health crisis.
Okay.
That's my issue. That I've not seen that, and I'm just saying that I'm not denying racism doesn't exist. I absolutely 100% identify that. I mean, good Lord, I've learned one thing through this process, is that it is clearly out in front and it's front of mind. Black Lives Matter didn't show up overnight for no reason. I mean, there is an issue we need to address. All I'm saying is that we need to come up with some tangible results or some tangible ways of dealing with this, rather than just having politicians stating or making declarations and saying we've done our job.
Well, since we both agree that racism exists, that means we must agree that there's an impact of that racism, and it might impact the health of minorities, and that's the whole point of it. I just remember your response, and I thought, okay, if I ever get a chance to talk with him, I want to drill down on that and give him a chance to sort of give us a chance to really understand where you're coming from. Because again, back in that forum, you kind of made a statement about, well, you're trying to say that everybody's racist in Hamilton County, which of course is not the point. And you realize that, right, Andy? That's not the point of what that health crisis declaration makes. Or do you still believe that's what it makes?
That's the understanding that's my understanding of what the declaration was designed to do, was to say, look, we want to acknowledge that there are disparities in our system, and race is at the forefront of that. That's that was my understanding of it. But I took the position to say, look, if you're going to go out and just make a declaration, there are a lot of people who are going to interpret that to say, wait, you're saying that I'm racist? I mean, case in point, when this flyer came out to say that, oh, that guy's racist because he sent out a single flyer, that's not helping. That's not going to advance the conversation. You're not going to get me to come to the table and have a fair mind and want to actually make a difference. It's a matter of, we need to come to an agreement to say, look, let's put some actual plans in place to address this once and for all. How do we improve the lives and not just get caught up in this word, that word, or ticky-tack mailing or nursery rhymes, whatever you want to call it. I just think that's not helping.
Well, I mean, I hear you, Andy, but you got to do a better job of making sure you know what's going out there to represent your campaign and what the deeper meetings are, whether it's subtle or overt. I mean, that really falls on you. You know what I'm saying? If you guys had filtered it correctly, it never would have got out to the public. I mean, you've already admitted that you've had some learning on this particular issue, so I think that's where it ends.
Yeah.
You know, it ends at your doorstep in the Hamilton County Republican Party. They should have done a better job of vetting it.
Understood. Not arguing with you on that. And that's what I was saying earlier, is that it was one of those that was brought up at the 11th hour and should have responded. But hey, Nathan, I got to jump, man. I got 2 minutes here and I got to jump on a Zoom meeting. So I appreciate the time, man. I appreciate you having me on. Hopefully I answered some questions for you. Not sure if I won any votes or not, but I'm open to having the conversation again at some point.
Hey, listen, I can respect that. Hey, thank you, Andy. Thank you for the call.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it. Yeah, at least he didn't pull a Bruce Hoffbauer. I give him props for that. I do. I give you props. You're willing to talk to different people. You might be going into the Lions Den. You know, it may not. It ain't 55 KRC. It is what it is. So there's Andy Black. He said, listen, you know, I admit that I grew up in a bubble. And I admit that I missed that one with the mailer. You, my audience, knows I kept it real with you. I did say that on air, like, wait a minute. He should distance himself from that. You know, maybe the Republican Party put this out and you initially didn't know what it was, but maybe you should distance yourself from it now and say, look, this don't really represent me. You know what I'm saying? If you offend somebody, it's not for you to decide whether they're truly offended. If they say they offended, period. That's it. It is what it is. And there is a racist history to that nursery rhyme. There's no doubt about it. And if you're a white male and you put out a flyer, and again, he didn't put it out, the Hamilton County Republican Party put it out. Hey, caller, 293 number coming straight to you. If you're a white male in these days and times, everything is racially polarized, and a mailer goes out that promotes your campaign, and you're running against a black female or a black male, and you put eeny, meeny, miny, mo on it, you should not be surprised that some people are going to say that it's racist. And like I told Andy, my thing is, are you still in this bubble? Are you going to be able to represent me as a Hamilton County commissioner? Or will you have more oops, my bad moments? Like, oops, I didn't know that. I have to learn. So now you're learning it on the job when you're supposed to be representing us. That's my concern. You know, his thing about the Bengals, I mean, it sounds good. You can have the best ideas in the world with the Bengals, but they have the final say. They have to write off. They have to sign off on anything that's going to happen. So here we are arguing about changing a deal that's in favor of the Bengals, but there's no deal that the Bengals are going to sign off on that's not in favor of the Bengals, period. Why would you give up control just because it's the right thing to do? Where they do that at? They don't do that. So I hear all this talk about, oh, we're going to do this with the Bengals. We're going to do that with the Bengals. We're going to get them. It's going to be a negotiation between you and the Hamilton County commissioners. The other two are Democrats. So you're going to be in a minority. That means what? Majority rules. So what? You turn into Chris Monzel again, the white dude on the commission that is going to the media talking about how the Democrats running things are going too far. I mean, if that's the kind of balance you're looking for, okay. I'm down with that kind of balance if that's what you're looking for. But I appreciate him coming on. I really do. Because some of these white male Republican types are afraid to come on the show and answer a few questions. I see that was painless. We don't bite. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
What's up, Nathan?
Hey, what's going on?
It's the minister.
What's up, minister? Welcome.
Not much. I love your show. This is what I'm telling you. Always have the hardball questions. I feel like if he had a Zoom meeting, I feel like he was trying to run away. Tell you the truth, he was trying to run away from us because it was getting too heated in the situation. But at the same time, Nathan, I just don't understand. I don't understand that when he said that he had black people in the campaign, like he said he had black people in the campaign first. All right. When he said he had black people in the campaign and they didn't know, and I'm 28 years old. And I know that saying since I was like 10 years old. How do people don't know that that nursery rhyme like that? And that was fully racist. If you have, it feel like his campaign is not diverse at all. He probably got a few. When people say diverse, sometimes they think they have like 5 or 6 black people in there working in there, and it's diverse. But majority is white. You get what I'm saying?
I hear you.
So
yeah, I definitely hear you.
The thing is, what'd you say?
I said I hear you, minister.
But the thing is that what I'm worried about, like voting for him, is that he said he's so trapped in his, he's in his bubble and stuff. That's the main concern of what I'm thinking of. Like when you're in this bubble and you're in Marymount, because Marymount is right next to Indian Hills. You do know that.
Yeah, I do.
Indian Hills help out with Marymount a lot. If you're so in this bubble, have he been going out to the communities? Did he say that? I don't know if he said that.
I think during the campaign he's been going out to the community.
But before the campaign, you know what I mean? If he get elected, then what? He's gonna worry about the Bengals deal and forget about us? Or are you gonna be so trapped in this bubble and be like, oh, I didn't know this situation happened, or oh, I didn't know. You're just learning stuff on the fly. Know our history, know the struggles that we're going through right now, instead of learning on the fly and be like, oh, I'm just learning this right now type stuff. That's what I'm questioning about. Because when you get elected, if you get elected, you're gonna start learning stuff on the fly. No, you need to know this stuff when you get elected, instead of just learning stuff on the fly and knowing our struggles and stuff. No, that's not how it works. And then he said he's hiring people that, you know what I mean? He's hiring people that is like, you know, he's hiring people that been through the struggle, basically. You get what I'm saying? He's hiring the people that been through the struggle of the black community. But I don't see that. I don't. And that's why I'm kind of hesitant. Like hesitant to vote for him, because I don't know what's going to be I don't know. I don't know. Like he just told it, like when he say he's in this bubble and he don't know certain stuff, I'm like, And then he talked about the Bengals stuff was like a yabba dabba doing type stuff. He started yabba dabba doing. That's how I look at it. But like I said, Nate, I love your hardball questions. I'm gonna be a Patreon. I'm about to become a Patreon today after the end of your show. And I love your show. I love your flows. Keep on doing the work, brother.
Thank you so much.
Come out.
Appreciate you. It's a minister. He was in and out. I got to make a move, unfortunately, family. It is 10:04. I want to give you a heads up. Midday Juice with Ask Ashley today at 1 p.m. Valet service with Fast Pitch today at 7 p.m. Keep your eyes on Send Digital Media. We're just getting started, amplifying Black voices in the greater Cincinnati area and beyond. Again, 1 p.m. today, Midday Juice with Ask Ashley. You ask the question, she gives you the answer. And at 7 p.m. today, Valet service with Fast Pitch, another exciting podcast here with Send Digital Media. Looking forward to it. You can watch all the podcasts live on Facebook. Just subscribe to the video feed on Facebook. Anytime we go live with a video, you'll get us an update via your Messenger app or your Facebook app. Listen, thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Andy Black for coming on. I appreciate his time this morning. All right. Have an excellent rest of your day. Remember, winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winners. So stay focused and stay winning. And we'll talk real soon, family. I'm out. Don't go anywhere.
Sister Thomas asking you to vote for Charmaine McGuffey for Sheriff of Hamilton County. As a former police officer, I know Charmaine is the only qualified candidate to be sheriff. She stands with our community and will lead with accountability. Her opponent used excessive force in the killing of an unarmed black man and led the highly controversial Vortex unit. He is the last person we need to lead our sheriff's office. Trust the judgment of someone who knows. Vote Charmaine McGuffey for sheriff, a vote for justice.
This is Charmaine McGuffey asking for your vote. Paid for by people for McGuffey for sheriff.
So many Democrats voting for Charlie Winburn. Democrat Malcolm Timmons.
I'm voting for Charlie Winburn because he is a man that does what he says he's going to do, and he gets things done for our community.
Democrat Nettie Matthews.
Of course I'm voting for my brother Charlie Winburn because he cares about the black community.
Democrat Paul Booth.
I'm voting for my longtime friend Charlie Winburn. He will put people over party.
Democrat Zakiya Allen.
I'm voting for Charlie Winburn because he has a positive track record in our community.
Democrat Charles Charles Wiley.
I am voting for Charlie Winburn because he would be accountable to us.
Democrat Klein Carricker.
I'm voting for Charlie Winburn because he helps to train hundreds of African Americans through his leadership masterclass.
Democrat Jafanya Wynn.
I'm voting for Charlie Winburn because he cares about women with children, providing child care and a school for K through 8th graders.
Democrat T. Renee.
I want to see the first African American county treasurer elected after 230 years.
Vote Charlie Winburn for Hamilton County Treasurer.
Paid for by friends of Charlie Winburn.
The Nathan Ivey Show is supported by listeners. Go to www.patreon.com/Nathan Ivey Show and help Nathan keep the show independent.
Senator Cecil Thomas asking you to vote for Charmaine McGuffey for Sheriff of Hamilton County. As a former police officer, I know Charmaine is the only qualified candidate to be sheriff. She stands with our community and will lead with accountability. Her opponent used excessive force in the killing of an unarmed black man and led the highly controversial Vortex unit. He is the last person we need to lead our sheriff's office. Trust the judgment of someone who knows. Vote Charmaine McGuffey for sheriff, a vote for justice.
This is Charmaine McGuffey asking for your vote. Paid for by people for McGuffey for sheriff.
Yeah.